Chapter 1948. Imperial brother, did I say something wrong? Qiao Yefeng clenched her fists tightly. I know you purposely created the four-nation youth competition, but I can't stand it anymore. To think that there are such stupid women and shameless men in this world. Fortunately, I am smart enough to not be deceived by such a man like Mu Shuoxin. I told you to shut up. Did you hear me? The luxurious man raised his hand and slapped Xiao Yefeng. Honestly speaking, he had wanted to hit this woman for a long time. He thought that she was the smartest person in the world, but in reality, no one was stupider than her. Back in the palace, his father hated conflicts between the princes and princesses the most. Hence, no matter how much he wanted to beat this woman up, he endured it. Now, they were in Wind Cloud City. How could he let go of this opportunity? Even if this woman went back to complain, he had reason to do so. Qiao Zixuan. Qiao Yefeng was stunned by this slap. She only recovered her wits after a long time. She held her swollen cheek and looked at the man in front of her in disbelief. You actually dare to hit me? This time, perhaps due to her anger, Qiao Yefeng did not even address him as imperial brother. Instead, she directly called him by his name. I hit you to teach you a lesson. You did not even know the other party's identity, yet you dared to speak so arrogantly. Qiao Zixuan snorted coldly. Qi Su is the young master of the Qi clan. The Qi clan is the #1 noble clan in the Drifting Wind Nation. Yet, you claim that he is a guard. Qiao Yefeng was somewhat stunned. Why would someone from the #1 noble clan participate in the four-nation youth competition? Wasn't the four-nation youth competition supposed to be a competition between the princes and princesses of the various nations? Even the people they brought were only guards and palace maids. The most important thing was that the successor of the #1 noble clan in the Drifting Wind Nation was with someone from the Tianqi Nation. Imperial brother, isn't it just the #1 noble clan? Is there a need to beat me up because of someone from the #1 noble clan? Although she knew that she had made a mistake, Qiao Yefeng would not apologize. She held back her anger in her heart and said angrily. So what if it was the #1 noble clan? Could it be stronger than the royal clan? Furthermore, she was not wrong. Qi Su wanted to marry Mu Shuoxin for the sake of the royal clan. Otherwise, with Mu Shuoxin's status, she would have to marry into another royal family. Qiao Zixuan was too lazy to say anything more to her and coldly threw a sentence. If you want to stay here, you must listen to me, otherwise, I will send you back to the Purple Moon Kingdom. Upon hearing that Qiao Zixuan wanted to send her back, Qiao Yefeng was so frightened that she shut her mouth and did not dare to say another word. When Mu Shuoxin heard Qiao Yefeng slandering Qi Su, she was so angry that she wanted to argue with her, but she was stopped by Yun Luofeng. A person who can't eat grapes says that the grapes are sour. Do you really want to argue with her whether the grapes are sour or not? Not to mention Mu Shuoxin, even the onlookers were stunned. Only after a long while did they react and burst into laughter. What nonsense are you spouting? Qiao Yefeng didn't care about the palace maid's tugging and fiercely shook off her hand. She glared angrily at Yun Luofeng. When did I say the grapes were sour? And you said I can't eat grapes. What a joke. I am the princess of the Purple Moon Kingdom, how can I not eat grapes? The palace maids and guards of the Purple Moon Kingdom were so ashamed that they wanted to dig a hole in the ground. Qiao Zixuan was so angry that his complexion turned ashen. Only Qiao Yefeng did not know why the laughter became even louder after she said those words. Chapter 1949. Your Highness, the palace maid could not stand it anymore and carefully tugged at Qiao Yefeng's sleeve. She's saying that you like Qi Su, but because he's the fiancé of the princess of Drifting Wind Country, you're saying that he's not good. The palace maid had been vague enough. She was just short of saying that Qiao Yefeng was humiliating Qi Su in front of the world because she could not have him. That was the truth, was it not? Qiao Yefeng finally reacted. Her beautiful face was flushed red as she bit her lip and clenched her fists. Mu Shuoxin laughed mockingly. You'd better go back and learn more. Otherwise, you'll say that the grapes are sour because you can't have them. Qiao Yefeng's face was full of resentment and humiliation after being humiliated in front of so many people. The way she looked at Yun Luofeng also changed from jealousy to hatred. She could not touch Mu Shuoxin, but she could not touch her. Amidst the laughter of the crowd, the royal family of Jinyang country finally arrived. However, no one dared to say a word about the Jinyang country's tardiness. They all stood calmly on the spot and even stopped laughing. My apologies, I'm late. The emperor of Jinyang country, Qing Feiyang, strode over, flicked his sleeves, and sat down on the throne. Standing beside him was a young and beautiful woman. This woman had a head full of black hair that flowed like a waterfall, thick and beautiful. Her face was very elegant. If one had to describe it, it would be like a hibiscus out of clear water, a natural carving. She did not need any makeup to bring out her elegant and refined beauty. She was dressed in a purple scholarly dress, elegant and dignified. A light yellow sash was tied around her waist, making her look very elegant and fresh. Qi Su looked at the woman standing beside Qing Feiyang and lowered his head. She's the #1 genius of Jinyang country, the Golden Sun Princess. She's also Qing Feiyang's most beloved daughter. Her status in Jinyang country is second only to the emperor and higher than the empress. Yun Luofeng's gaze also fell on the Golden Sun Princess. The Golden Sun Princess seemed to have noticed Yun Luofeng's inquisitive gaze and looked over. When Princess Jinyang, who was a woman, saw a stunning face in the crowd, she could not help but be stunned. She had always thought that her appearance was unparalleled, but she had never expected that there would be someone so stunning in the vast thousand worlds. Actually, if it was just based on appearance, she didn't think she was bad. However, that woman had a temperament that no one else could compare to. He was like a king, ruling over the world. Below the stage, everyone was looking at Qing Feiyang and Princess Golden Sunday. Even the arrogant Qiao Yefeng did not feel jealous of Princess Golden Sun at this moment. Ladies and gentlemen, this year's competition will be held by our Jinyang country. Whoever wins will unify the 4 countries and become the true overlord of the 4 countries. Qing Feiyang smiled faintly, his eyes shining brightly. Although the Jinyang country was the strongest out of the 4 countries, the other countries still agreed to participate in the tournament. This was because the current situation of the Wind Cloud continent did indeed require the emergence of a person to lead the entire situation. Of course, more people hoped that the person who could lead the entire situation was themselves. Next, the leaders of each country will report the number of people in each team. In fact, other than the Tianqi country which had 2 teams, the people from the other countries were all in one team. Chapter 1950. However, the other team from the kingdom of Tianqi only consisted of 3 people, hence, when Qi Ling reported the number of people, everyone looked at them in surprise. 3 people. Did I hear that right? The second team from the kingdom of Tianqi only has 3 people? TSK, could it be that the second prince of the kingdom of Tianqi thinks that the 3 of them can fight against so many of us? What a joke! Everyone laughed mockingly, their eyes full of mockery. Mu Shuoxin's expression was full of worry. She wanted to say something, but when she saw Yun Luofeng's calm expression, the worry in her heart slowly disappeared. Of these 2 people, one was her trusted benefactor and the other was her fiancé. Hence, she believed in their strength. At this time, the third prince, Qiyu, stood up and said arrogantly, "You don't know how arrogant my second brother is. Before we arrived, he said that he only needed 3 people to crush all the princes and princesses of the other royal families. Because of the relationship between Mu Shuexin and Qi Su, the people from the Drifting Wind country did not show any expression. However, when the Purple Moon country and the Golden Sun country heard this, they immediately glared angrily at Qi Ling and the others. Although Qiao Zixuan did not say anything, his eyes were filled with dissatisfaction. It was true that he was afraid of Yun Wuqing, but that did not mean that Qi Su and Qi Ling could make him cower. What's more, Qi Ling dared to say such arrogant words. Only the Golden Sun Princess remained calm, as if she did not hear Qi Yu's words. Instead, her pair of clear eyes stared unblinkingly at Yun Luofeng. If there was anyone here that made her wary, it would be this woman in white. Even she did not know why, but she had a feeling that perhaps this woman would become a formidable opponent. Qi Ling frowned. He stood up and wanted to say something, but an arm stretched out and blocked his way. The woman's lips were curled into a smile and her eyes were filled with evil. She raised her chin slightly and a faint smile hung on her beautiful face. You were right about one thing. With just the 3 of us, we can defeat all of you. Arrogant, arrogant. Under everyone's mocking and contemptuous gazes, she actually threw out such a sentence. Everyone was dumbfounded. They did not expect that she would dare to say such words in the presence of all the princes and princesses of the various countries. This was simply incomparably arrogant, not putting them in his eyes at all. Qiao Yefeng laughed coldly. We are well aware of Qi Ling's strength. As for the 2 of you, I'm afraid that you are not even comparable to Qi Ling. Yet, you want to rely on the 3 of you to crush all of us. This princess has never seen someone as arrogant as you. Yun Luofeng slightly raised his eyebrows and glanced at Qiao Yefeng. You didn't see it before, but you see it now. You. Qiao Yefeng pointed at Yun Luofeng angrily. She was so angry that her chest heaved up and down. Good. In the 4-nation youth competition later, let me see how capable you are. Did this woman think that she was the Golden Yang Princess? Princess Jean Yang was very talented. It was understandable for her to say such words. However, she wanted to crush everyone with just the 3 of them. This was the funniest joke she had ever heard in her life. Thinking of this, the Golden Yang Princess glared at Yun Luofeng. Later on, she would use facts to prove whether this woman was truly capable or just hot-headed. Chapter 1951. Outside the city gates. The man in black paused in mid-air and lowered his head to look at the majestic city gate in front of him. The corners of his lips curled into a shallow smile. However, just as he was about to enter the city gates, 2 soldiers from the Golden Sun country blocked his way. Stop, please show me your identity seal. Scram! There was a loud boom. As soon as the man's cold words fell, they felt a powerful force slam into their chests, causing their bodies to suddenly fly backwards and fall into the city gates. By the time they regained their senses, the man had already disappeared. Quick, go and report to His Majesty, an unknown person has barged in. The soldier struggled to stand up. He clutched his injured chest and said breathlessly. Immediately after, he dragged his injured body and rushed towards the venue where the 4-nation youth competition was being held. Wind Cloud City was only so big. As such, the man quickly found the place where the crowd had gathered. From afar, he saw the woman in white standing in the crowd. In that instant, the white-robed woman seemed to have sensed something. She abruptly raised her eyes, and at that moment, her eyes met the man's warm gaze, causing her heart to feel as if it had been struck fiercely. When their eyes met, Yun Luofeng forgot all the noise around him. He only stared blankly at the man in the sky. Miss Yun. Qi Su sensed Yun Luofeng's strange expression and followed her gaze. Then, she saw the godlike man in the sky. The first impression that this man gave off was that he was very powerful. Even though he was wearing a mask, it could not hide his aura. Qiao Yefeng also saw the man in the sky. She frowned and said with some annoyance, "This man is really shameless. He knows that this princess has come to Wind Cloud City and specially chased after me." A prince of the Golden Sun country was curious about Yun Zhao's identity. When he heard this, he looked at Qiao Yefeng. "Princess Feng, do you know this man?" "That's right," Qiao Yefeng sneered disdainfully. "This man covets this princess' beauty and actually covets this princess. He wants Imperial Father to marry this princess to him, but he doesn't even look at himself. He's so ugly that he can't show his face. This princess will definitely not agree." To save face, she did not tell the prince of the Jinyang kingdom that her father intended to give her to this man as a concubine. If this matter were to spread out, how could she, Qiao Yefeng, continue to mingle in this mainland? As he spoke, the man in the sky slowly walked over. His cold eyes were filled with warmth at this moment. His black eyes pierced through everyone and landed on the woman in white. Feng Er. He had finally found her. "In this life, I only hope that we will never be separated again." Who would have thought that when Qiao Yefeng heard Yun Zhao's way of addressing her, she thought that she was being addressed, and the disgust on her face was undisguised. "Ghost Emperor, it's not easy for me to escape from the Purple Moon Kingdom and come to this place. You actually chased me here. Who allowed you to address this princess like that? Don't think that just because my imperial father respects you, you can covet what doesn't belong to you." Qiao Yefeng arrogantly raised her chin and spoke in an overbearing manner. This man's eyes were so gentle when he looked at her, he would definitely not be angry because of these words. Otherwise, it would be difficult for her to explain to her imperial father. When the others heard Qiao Yefeng's words, they looked at Yun Zhao with eyes full of understanding. Chapter 1952. It turns out that this man came to pursue Qiao Yefeng. It seems that his strength is not bad, his imposing manner makes people tremble with fear. Unfortunately, he is too ugly, so Qiao Yefeng doesn't like him. Indeed, in everyone's ears, the pronunciation of Feng Er and Feng Er is the same. Therefore, not to mention Qiao Yefeng, even the others thought that Yun Zhao was referring to the Purple Moon Kingdom's princess. However, after seeing Yun Luo Feng, Yun Zhao's eyes were filled with her existence. The surrounding noise was automatically blocked by him and he walked towards the beautiful woman in white. "Ghost Emperor, don't you understand human language? I already said I don't like you, you still." Before Qiao Yefeng could finish her words, the man walked past her and walked forward. Suddenly, Qiao Yefeng's expression froze and her eyes widened in disbelief. "This damn man, how dare he ignore me?" Qiao Yefeng was so angry that she turned her head and shouted angrily, "Ghost Emperor, stop right there. Are you trying to attract this princess's attention by loosening the reins only to grasp better? This princess is telling you, don't even think about it." What made Qiao Yefeng even angrier was that Yun Zhao didn't seem to hear her voice and slowly walked in front of Yun Luo Feng. His voice was very gentle, completely different from the person she once saw in the palace of the Purple Moon Kingdom. "Feng Er, I'm here for you." Yes, he's here for her. Yun Luo Feng suddenly rushed into Yun Zhao's arms, his arms tightly wrapped around his neck. He raised his lips and pressed them on the man's thin lips. This kiss was so intense that it made everyone present dumbfounded. Didn't Qiao Yefeng say that this man came to find her? It turned out that this was a mistake. Compared to the shock of the others, Qiao Yefeng almost fainted from anger. She clenched her fists so tightly that her nails dug into her flesh. "Your Highness." The palace maid Xiao Chui looked worried and carefully called out. Qiao Yefeng didn't seem to hear her voice, Her eyes were full of hatred as she looked at Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao. Of course, she doesn't like Yun Xiao and naturally, she wasn't angry because of his intimate actions with Yun Luofeng. But because this man had caused her to lose all her face in front of so many people. She had claimed that the Ghost Emperor had come to look for her. Who would have thought that the Ghost Emperor would not even look at her and would even do such an immoral thing with another woman? How could she not be angry and embarrassed? Yun Xiao, you know this woman. Yun Luofeng let go of the man's arm and pointed at Xiao Yefeng with his chin, asking with a faint smile. Only then did Yun Xiao return to his senses. He looked over at the direction of Yun Luofeng's gaze and what he saw was a face that was distorted by anger. He looked at Xiao Yefeng seriously, as if he was trying his best to think. In the end, he shook his head and said, "No." Xiao Yefeng's face turned the color of pig liver. This sentence made her even angrier than when he had ignored her. She had just said that the other party had a crush on her, but in the end, the man said he didn't know her. How could he not know her? If they didn't know each other, he wouldn't have let his father force her to become a concubine. In fact, Yun Xiao really didn't know Xiao Yefeng. At that time, when he had killed his way into the Purple Moon Kingdom and fought against two strong cultivators, the only person he remembered was the Emperor of the Purple Moon Kingdom. Even if Xiao Yefeng had been present at that time, he wouldn't have been able to discover the other party's existence. So, in Yun Xiao's eyes, he really didn't know this woman. Chapter 1953. What's funny is that Xiao Yefeng didn't know that it was her father's decision to let her be Yun Xiao's concubine. Yun Xiao never knew her existence. Oh, Xiao Yefeng sneered. You're worried about this woman, so you don't dare to say what you've done during this time. If you didn't like me, would you let my father force me to be your woman? Her father told her at the time that the Ghost Emperor has been looking for a woman, and that woman is likely to be his wife. However, she always thought that the woman who fell in love with the Ghost Emperor must be an ugly person. She didn't expect that the woman would be Yun Luofeng. When she thought of this, Xiao Yefeng felt like she was slapped in the face, her face hurt. Yun Xiao's face has been cold and terrible, the momentum of her body has suddenly changed. Xiao Yefeng. Xiao Zixuan saw that his sister was getting more and more excessive. He hurriedly stopped her, for fear that this idiot will bring trouble to the Purple Moon Kingdom because of her stupidity. Apologize to the Ghost Emperor. Offer gifts and apologize. Those who don't know the identity of Yun Xiao were stunned by Xiao Zixuan's words. He actually asked the Purple Moon Kingdom's princess to apologize to this unknown man. I won't. Xiao Yefeng was very angry, coldly staring at Yun Luofeng. I tell you, you just picked up a man that this princess doesn't want. Do you really think that your man is infatuated with you? This princess just needs to hook her finger and he will come to this princess' side. Xiao Yefeng's words made Xiao Zixuan ashamed. From the beginning, the Ghost Emperor didn't look at her and claimed that he didn't know her. In the end, she was still able to say something like that. In fact, Xiao Zixuan didn't know the true strength of Yun Xiao because he was not in the Purple Moon Kingdom when Yun Xiao fought with the two strong men. And the Emperor of the Purple Moon Kingdom sealed this matter for the sake of face. Therefore, he only knows that his father is very respectful to the Ghost Emperor, but he doesn't know the real reason. If he knew that the two strong men of the Purple Moon Kingdom can't beat the Ghost Emperor, he would never give Xiao Yefeng a chance to say a word. The corners of Yun Luofeng's lips curled up slightly. With a smile on his face, his pitch-black eyes were filled with an evil light. Yun Xiao, it seems like you've been living a carefree life while I was away. She had forgotten that in front of her, Yun Xiao was the kind of person who had a one-track mind. Hence, Yun Xiao took her flattering words seriously. At that moment, he became nervous, and a murderous intent appeared in his cold, black eyes. Of course, this killing intent was definitely not directed at Yun Luofeng. Are you from the Purple Moon Kingdom? Yun Zhao's voice was cold to the extreme, even the surrounding temperature dropped a few degrees. Qiao Yefeng sneered, you already know the answer. It seems that, this Purple Moon Kingdom doesn't need to exist anymore. Yun Zhao's tone was filled with killing intent. I didn't expect that the Emperor of the Purple Moon Kingdom would send me a woman. Qiao Yefeng was stunned. His imperial father was sending him a woman. What did that mean? Wasn't he the one who forced it? I, Yun Zhao, only have one wife in this life. Yun Zhao's eyes had already gradually landed on Qiao Yefeng. This was the first time he looked at Qiao Yefeng. That gaze made Qiao Yefeng feel fear from the bottom of her heart. The rest, only death awaits. His tone was as concise and comprehensive as ever. The murderous aura exuded from his body made Qiao Yefeng's body tremble. At this moment, she remembered the grand scene when Yun Zhao fought with the two strong men that day. Chapter 1954. You. What are you trying to do? Her body trembled as she took 2 steps back. Yun Zhao was expressionless, his expression cold. His horrifying gaze was like that of a god of death. He could easily reap the lives of others with a raise of his hand. Ghost Emperor, Qiao Zixuan's expression changed slightly as he rushed forward. My sister is young and ignorant. Ghost Emperor, please let her off for now. Furthermore, my sister is the princess of the Purple Moon Nation. What you are doing is not very good. Even if Qiao Zixuan did not like his sister, he would not let anything happen to her before him. Yun Zhao did not say anything. He just moved closer to the Qiao siblings with a cold expression. Up on the high platform, Qing Feiyang originally did not want to interfere in the matters of other nations. However, this Qiao Yefeng was a princess participating in the 4-nation youth competition. How could he let anything happen to her? Hence, he cleared his throat and said, no matter what grudges you have, you can settle them after the 4-nation youth competition. At that time, my Golden Sun Nation will not interfere. Yun Zhao glanced coldly at Qing Feiyang, but he did not stop what he was doing. A swift and fierce wind blasted towards Qiao Yefeng, causing her body to shoot out fiercely like an arrow that had left its bow. Fresh blood gushed out of her mouth without end. Qing Feiyang's expression changed. He had not expected this man to disobey him. Yun Zhao. Just at this moment, Yun Luofeng's voice came from behind him. Teaching her a lesson is enough. Don't kill her for now. She is slandering me. Yun Zhao said with some grievance. Teach her a lesson first. As for the rest, I want to settle it myself. Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes slightly. It was one thing to spy on her man, but he even dared to slander her. How could he let go of this debt so easily? Seeing Yun Zhao's wronged expression, Yun Luofeng comforted her softly. Do you really think I will believe her words? We have been together for more than 10 years. What kind of trials and tribulations have we not experienced? How can you destroy my trust in you just because of a few words from someone else? Yun Zhao finally relaxed at Yun Luofeng's words. The corners of her lips under the mask curled up into a gentle smile. All right, I will listen to you. Although the man's smile was very shallow, it made everyone's heart hit. This man was as terrifying as a ghost. However, he could also be so obedient and docile. That's right, towards the Yun Zhao before them, a single word appeared in everyone's hearts, docile. Qiao Yefeng's body trembled even more. The scene of this black-clothed, cold-looking man appearing for the first time suddenly appeared in her mind. At that time, he was high and mighty like a monarch descending upon the world. It was as if he could decide the life and death of a person with a wave of his hand. It is estimated that the people of the Purple Moon Kingdom never thought that the cold-blooded man would be so gentle. This is Wind Cloud City. Qing Feiyang slammed the table and stood up. His expression was cold and stern. Young master, please wait until after the competition to decide. As if she did not hear Qing Feiyang's words, Yun Xiao had already walked in front of Qiao Yefeng. His gaze was cold and condescending as he stared at Qiao Yefeng coldly, as if he was looking down on the world. His gaze was as if the Qiao Yefeng standing in front of him was already a dead person. Boom. Yun Xiao's foot stepped on Qiao Yefeng's chest. He did not have the slightest bit of pity for the other party because she was a woman. Ghost Emperor. Qiao Zixuan felt Yun Xiao's terrifying power. His heart surged with fear and he gritted his teeth. Please be lenient. Chapter 1955. Yun Luofeng had only said that he would spare her life. However, he did not say that she could not be beaten to a pulp. Yun Xiao's expression remained cold and she did not show any mercy. With a flip of her foot, she sent Qiao Yefeng, who had been trampled on the ground, flying into the air. She fell from the sky and landed on the ground with a loud bang, creating a huge pit. Qiao Zixuan's face turned pale and he did not dare to say a word. The drifting wind country was on Yun Luofeng's side and was naturally enraged by Qiao Yefeng's words. They wanted nothing more than to beat her to death. As for the third prince and the others from the country of Tianqi, they had been frightened by Yun Xiao's arrogance and did not dare to step forward. Only Qing Feiyang from the country of Golden Sun shot a look at the expert behind him. That person leaped up and slashed down from the sky. Yun Xiao raised her head and looked at the old man who was descending from the sky. A cold light flashed in her grim black eyes. Whoosh! The old man's attack was accompanied by a strong gust of wind, instantly blowing Yun Xiao's mask off. His black hair, which was as black as ink, fluttered in the wild wind, slowly brushing past his handsome face. At this moment, Qiao Yefeng had already been fished out of the pit by Qiao Zixuan. Her body was in a terrible state and blood kept spurting from her mouth. It was a good thing that Qiao Zixuan had brought some spiritual medicine with him. This spiritual medicine could not heal Qiao Yefeng's injuries, but it gave her the strength to speak. Ghost Emperor, you ugly monster, you're only taking revenge on me because I don't want to be your concubine because I find you ugly. Do you really think that the woman by your side is anything good? There's no woman who doesn't like good-looking men. Anyone who is with you is only doing it for your power. I'd rather die than marry an ugly monster. As Yun Xiao's back was facing Qiao Yefeng did not see the man's face the moment his mask fell. She only heard gasps from all around her. Qiao Yefeng laughed icily in her heart. This ghost emperor must be too ugly, and that was why everyone was shocked. However, just as she finished speaking, the people around her looked at her as if she was an idiot, as if she had said something stupid. Just as Qiao Yefeng was puzzled, the man with his back facing her slowly turned around. In an instant, Qiao Yefeng's face stiffened, and even her breathing stopped. Her eyes were wide open, and her slightly trembling lips revealed the shock in her heart. What kind of face was that? He was as perfect as a god, without a single flaw. His pitch-black eyes were as cold as an eagle's in the night. Just a single glance from him would make one's heart stop beating. Qiao Yefeng had seen countless men, but the man standing in front of her right now was the most handsome she had ever seen. He was so handsome that he didn't seem like a human at all. Why? Qiao Yefeng clutched her aching heart and said with a pained look, "Why are you so good-looking? Why did he have to wear a mask? I know, you must be testing me to see if I will fall in love with you because of your ugly face." Even now, Qiao Yefeng still stubbornly believed that her imperial father had forced her to become the Ghost Emperor's concubine because the Ghost Emperor had taken a fancy to her. Unfortunately, she had always believed that the Ghost Emperor was extremely ugly, so she had never agreed to it. Yun Xiao looked at Qiao Yefeng expressionlessly as he raised his hand and pulled Yun Luofeng into his arms. The corners of his lips gently curled into a small angle. Chapter 1956. You're thinking too much. Over the years, there have been too many women pestering me. I can't even kill them all. In order to prevent my wife from feeling unhappy, I wear a mask when I walk outside to prevent my wife from feeling unhappy. You're thinking too much. These 4 words almost drove Qiao Yefeng crazy. Her eyes were bloodshot and she tried to walk towards Yun Xiao several times, but because her injuries were too severe, she fell to the ground again. Why? Why did things turn out like this? It was one thing for the Ghost Emperor to be ugly, but he just had to be so young and handsome, and his strength was even more formidable. How could she feel happy about this? What's more, she almost became this man's woman. Qiao Zixuan supported Qiao Yefeng's body and looked up at Yun Xiao. My sister already knows she was wrong, please stop. This is Wind Cloud City, the masters of Jin Sun Country will not let you do as you please. As he said this, Qiao Zixuan glanced at the old man who had just attacked. He was standing motionless like a mountain, as if as soon as Yun Xiao made a move, he would follow suit. Qiao Zixuan softened his tone, Ghost Emperor, I know you're strong, but my Purple Moon country is not too bad. Father respects you very much, that's why he intends to marry Feng to you. If you go against him, I'm afraid the Purple Moon country will not let you go. At this moment, Qiao Zixuan's heart was filled with many thoughts. The Ghost Emperor was so young and powerful. If he married his sister, then the Purple Moon country's strength would increase by another level. With their strength, surpassing Jin Sun country would only be a matter of time. Moreover, his sister already knows she was wrong, so she will never do it again. Yun Luofeng felt Yun Zhao's anger. She clenched his fist and looked indifferently at Qiao Zixuan. However, there was a sinister aura emanating from between her brows. I'm sorry, I'm a very petty person. In this life, he can only have me. If anyone dares to step into our Yun family's house, then I'm sorry, I won't let them leave again. Qiao Zixuan's face changed slightly, and he forced a smile. Miss, I'm afraid you can't make the decision on this matter, right? Yun Xiao tightened his grip on Yun Luofeng's shoulders. His eyes, which had been filled with sincerity and warmth when he looked at Yun Luofeng, reverted to their usual callousness when he looked at Qiao Zixuan. Not only my life, but even my life is in her hands. If she wants me to die, then I will die for her. If she wants me to live, then no one can kill me. Even my life is like this, yet you think that she can't make decisions for me and my family. Even his life was in her hands, let alone his. Yun Xiao knew that Yun Luofeng's words were to prevent any more women from finding trouble for them. So what if he cooperated with her? If not for this, he would have killed this group of people long ago. Feng, you don't have to do anything to these women. I'm afraid of dirtying your hands. My peach blossoms will be cut off by myself. Yun Zhao's figure flashed and appeared in front of Qiao Yefeng. Before the old man from Jinyang country could react, Yun Zhao's hand had already landed on Qiao Yefeng's head. He twisted her neck forcefully, and her neck was twisted off, causing blood to spurt out wildly. Everyone was dumbfounded. Some people couldn't stand this scene and ran to the side to vomit. Yun Xiao looked at the head in his hand and was stunned. Then, he looked at Yun Luofeng and said innocently, I accidentally used too much force and she died. I really didn't mean it. Chapter 1957. Yun Luofeng's mouth twitched a few times. She accidentally used too much force and she died. Was this the result of accidentally using too much force? However, looking at Yun Zhao's innocent expression, Yun Luofeng did not say anything to reprimand her. After all, even if Yun Zhao did not make a move, she would not let her off. The only reason she stopped her was because she wanted to do it herself. It's fine. If she dies, then she dies. Yun Luofeng shrugged his shoulders and said disapprovingly. It was as if to her, the death of a person was as simple as eating a meal. Qiao Zixuan was stunned. He looked at the girl lying in a pool of blood and suddenly felt incomparable grief and indignation. No matter how much he disliked this sister of his, she was still his biological sister. How could she die in front of his eyes? However, Qiao Zixuan knew his own strength. No matter how angry he was, he did not dare to say a word in front of her. The others were also shocked. They did not expect Yun Zhao to kill someone so decisively under the threat of the Jinyang country cultivators. Brat! Qing Feiyang was furious and said coldly, "You really do not take my orders seriously." He was so angry not because of Qiao Yefeng's death. To him, what did Qiao Yefeng's life or death have to do with him? He was just angry that Yun Zhao dared to ignore his words and even killed someone in front of him. How could he tolerate this? Unfortunately, Yun Zhao did not even look at him and walked to Yun Luofeng's side. His cold eyes, which were filled with bloodlust, showed a hint of warmth when he faced the girl. If you want to be the commander of the 4 countries, how about I help you? Yun Luofeng shrugged his shoulders. I prefer to rely on my own strength. The man was startled and his lips curled up slightly. All right, then I will accompany you. If you want to conquer the world, then why not accompany you? I am only willing to be your vanguard and sweep away all the dogs that block your way. The two of them acted as if there was no one else around, but it aroused the anger of the crowd. Qing Feiyang clenched his fist tightly. His eyes were filled with coldness. However, just at this moment, Princess Jinyang said softly, "Imperial Father, the Purple Moon Kingdom's princess is already dead. There is no need for us to waste time on a dead person. We might as well start the 4-nation youth competition earlier." These words brought Qing Feiyang back to his senses. Indeed, to him, the 4-nation youth competition was the most important. As for the debt with this man, he could wait until the 4-nation youth competition ended before settling it. Since my daughter is pleading for you, I will let you off this time. Qing Feiyang laughed coldly as a cold light flashed across his domineering eyes. However, you don't seem to be from the 4 nations. Naturally, you don't have the right to participate in this competition. This man was very strong. Even Jinyang couldn't compare to him. To be on the safe side, he couldn't let this man get involved. Yun Zhao looked at Qing Feiyang expressionlessly. The murderous aura on his body had already gradually surged out like a storm. It was extremely oppressive, causing the surrounding people to feel suffocated. It was as if a hand was pinching their chests, making them unable to breathe. Suddenly, a hand pressed down on the back of Yun Zhao's hand. When he turned his head, he was met with a pair of eyes that were smiling evilly. "This is a battle that belongs to me. Yun Zhao, I can't always rely on you. I need to rely on my own strength to seize this piece of the world." The woman's eyes were very resolute, so resolute that Yun Zhao withdrew his murderous aura. He nodded obediently. "All right, I will listen to you." Chapter 1958. Yun Luofeng let go of Yun Zhao's hand and walked towards Qi Su and the others. "Someone, take the Purple Moon Princess body away." Qing Feiyang looked at the body in the pool of blood with disgust. He frowned slightly and asked, "Fourth Prince, what's your decision?" Qiao Zixuan cupped his fists and said with red eyes, "Your Majesty, please allow my sister to stay in Wind Cloud City for a few more days. I will bring her back after the competition." Qiao Yefeng was already dead and he must not lose the right to participate in the competition. All right, Qing Feiyang nodded. I will allow the princess to stay for a few days, but I don't want her to tarnish the station. Do you understand? Thank you, Your Majesty. Qing Feiyang's eyes swept towards Yun Shao and Yun Luofeng. His slightly lowered eyes hid hatred and enmity. The four-nation competition is an opportunity. He will let Yun Luofeng taste the consequences. If he made a mistake, he must pay the price. Next up is the four-nation youth competition. Qing Feiyang's voice suddenly turned sharp. As everyone knows, our Wind Cloud continent has always been without a leader. As a result, the Wind Cloud continent is currently in chaos. There are even many wandering experts who have formed a team and plan to become enemies with our four nations. Under normal circumstances, once one breaks through to the Heavenly God realm, they will be absorbed by the four countries. However, there are still some experts who are not willing to submit to others, so they escape the four countries and hide. Now, these experts have formed a team and plan to overthrow the rule of the four countries. This is the reason why Qing Feiyang announced to the four countries that he intends to appoint a leader. Everyone, don't worry. No matter which country wins this competition, they will become the leader of the four countries. No one will dare to disobey them. Qing Feiyang's voice was powerful and resonant, but there was confidence between his brows. In fact, there was another reason why he issued this edict. He wanted the other countries to work for him. However, he also understood that without a goal, it would be very difficult to win over the four countries. At this time, those experts will start to cause trouble for the four countries. For this reason, he will use this as an excuse to let the Golden Sun country truly rise above the other countries. As for failure, he did not even think about it. In Qing Feiyang's heart, there was no genius in the four nations who could defeat his daughter, Princess Jean Yang. Therefore, Jean Yang would definitely win the position of the leader of the four nations for her. Imperial Father. Princess Jean Yang's clear and cold voice sounded in the quiet square. It's getting late. It's better for us to start the competition earlier. Perhaps intentionally or unintentionally, Princess Golden Yang's eyes swept across Yun Luofeng's face. Her eyes gradually became cautious. Among the people present, perhaps the only one who could be considered a formidable opponent was this woman. However, in this battle, she could only accept victory and not defeat. Thinking about the consequences of failure, Princess Jean Yang's heart tightened. She clenched her fists tighter. Ladies and gentlemen, the competition is very simple. This competition will be held in the Nemesis Forest. As for this competition, it was set by me and the other emperors of the four kingdoms. In addition, each country's imperial jade seal will be placed in the Nemesis Forest. Qing Feiyang continued to speak in a cold and stern voice. In the process of searching for the imperial jade seal, not only can you take away other countries' imperial jade seals, you can also snatch them from their hands. Whoever obtains the most imperial jade seals will be the winner. If everyone can only find one imperial jade seal, then whoever returns to Wind Cloud City first will be the winner. Chapter 1959. The entire plaza quietened down at Qing Feiyang's words. Nemesis Forest was the most dangerous place on the mainland. If they went to Nemesis Forest, they would most likely die. No one would have thought that the four nations would use Nemesis Forest as the venue for the four-nation competition. Everyone, do not worry. Qing Feiyang smiled faintly. The place where the jade seal is hidden will not be in the depths of Nemesis Forest. As long as you do not go too deep, you will not encounter any danger. Hearing this, everyone's hearts were at ease. The position of the leader of the four nations was very important. However, they were even more unwilling to be in danger. Princess Jean Yang's expression remained indifferent. Her eyes scanned the crowd of participants. When she saw that the participants had clearly heaved a sigh of relief, the corners of her lips curled into a sarcastic smile. However, she looked at Yun Luofeng again. When she saw that the woman in white was still as calm and demonic as before, a trace of admiration flashed in her eyes. A woman like this was indeed different from the rest. However, she did not know if they would become friends or enemies in the future. "I'll go with you." Yun Xiao slowly walked to Yun Luofeng's side and looked at the woman in front of him seriously. "You can follow me secretly. Don't let anyone discover you." Seeing the man's determined gaze, Yun Luofeng knew that even if she rejected him, this man would not allow her to go to Nemesis Forest alone. Hence, she deliberately lowered her voice and spoke. "All right." Yun Zhao's expression was very determined. Even if Yun Luofeng rejected him, he would follow her secretly. Only then could he rest assured. "Oh, that's right, Yun Xiao." Yun Luofeng seemed to remember something and said, "Mo Qianqing is here too." Mo Qianqing. These three words made Yun Xiao frown, but he did not say anything. He raised his hand and pulled the woman into his embrace. His voice was resolute as he said, "I don't care how many men are eyeing you. You only belong to me. That's enough. No matter how many men want you, as long as your heart is with me, how can I not be satisfied?" Yun Luofeng's heart skipped a beat. This man had always wanted simple things. He had never restricted her growth and had never tried to kill off any man who appeared by her side. He had always believed that it was enough for her to have him in her heart. Ahem, Chi Su coughed dryly. Her face was filled with awkwardness. "You're showing off your love as if there's no one else around. Shouldn't you at least consider our feelings? It's fine if it's me, but the second prince is still a single dog. Is it really okay for you to do this?" At first, Qi Ling didn't feel anything, but when he heard Chi Su's words, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch a few times. He suddenly felt that these two people's public display of affection really made him sad. At this time, Qing Feiyang had already given out the necessary instructions. He slowly stood up and said, "Next, the experts of our Golden Sun country will bring you to Nemesis Forest. After half a month, we will gather at Wind Cloud City." Nemesis Forest was not far from Wind Cloud City, only a few hundred meters away. This was also the reason why they had chosen Nemesis Forest. But, when Chi Su heard the words Nemesis Forest, his brows moved slightly and a trace of sadness surged in his heart. Back then, his master had gone to Nemesis Forest and disappeared without a trace. Now that he was about to enter that place, he wondered if he would be able to find her footprints. Chapter 1960. Nemesis Forest. A woman sat in a valley in the depths of the forest. Her white robes fluttered in the wind. Compared to Yun Luofeng's demonic and lazy demeanor, this woman had a calm and otherworldly air about her. Suddenly, a sharp aura pierced through the air and caused the woman in white, who had been sitting cross-legged with her eyes closed, to suddenly open them. Her eyes were cold as she stared icily at the dark sky. "Since you found your way here, why bother hiding? You can come out now." A woman dressed in a flowing green dress appeared in the sky. The woman's face was filled with disdain as she looked down at the woman in white sitting on the ground. The corners of her lips curled up gently. "Yun Yuqing, I never thought that you would be hiding in Nemesis Forest. It's your good fortune that our alliance leader has taken a liking to you. You don't know what's good for you. I really don't know what kind of charm you have to make the alliance leader so infatuated with you." Yun Yuqing's face was expressionless. Her expression was calm. "I don't love him. It's that simple." In reality, she did not know why, but she could not find any interest in any man. It was as if there was someone hidden deep in her heart. However, no matter how hard she tried, she could not remember what that man looked like. There was only a blurry figure that seemed to agitate the nerves in her mind. Yun Yuqing. The woman in green was trembling with anger. She glared fiercely at Yun Yuqing. I've come to find you for something else. I remember that before Master passed away, he gave you a seal. Hand over that seal, and I'll spare your life. Yun Yuqing slowly rose to her feet. She was dressed in white and looked as ethereal as a fairy. Her expression was calm and her eyes were unruffled. The windy cloud continent is ruled by the 4 nations. They force anyone who is a sky god to join them. That's why Master established the Freedom Alliance. His goal was to protect the freedom of those who were unwilling to join the royal family. However, after Master's death, you went against his wishes and wanted to unify the entire windy cloud continent. How are you any different from the 4 nations? Yun Yuqing's voice was overbearing as she walked towards the woman in green. Because I didn't want to wallow in the mire with you, you want to kill me. And you still keep saying that he loves me. 3 years ago, she left her disciple and headed towards Nemesis Forest in search of medicine. However, just as she had found the medicine, someone sent her a letter saying that her master was gravely ill and wanted her to return to the Alliance. Who knew that what awaited her in the Alliance was an encirclement? Her master had passed on the seal to her before he died. Back then, she didn't know that the current Alliance leader, who was also her senior brother, was a wolf with wild ambitions. In order to obtain the seal, he did not hesitate to poison her. He had even taken advantage of her when she was in danger to seriously injure her. She had then risked her life to escape from the Alliance. She had been on the run all the way until finally, she had chosen to return to Nemesis Forest to recuperate. Yun Yuqing, this isn't up to you. I'm here on the Alliance head's orders to retrieve the seal. The green-robed woman raised her head arrogantly and continued, besides, the Alliance leader truly likes you. If you had just handed over the seal, the Alliance leader would not have hurt you. Instead, she would have cured you of the poison. Unfortunately, you are too disobedient. The Alliance leader is Master's eldest disciple, so it's only right that he should inherit the Alliance. You have only been in the Alliance for over 10 years. Why should the Alliance be handed over to you? Yun Yuqing laughed softly. Even though I don't know what it means to like someone, I do know that when you like someone, you are willing to give everything to them. You would never hurt the person you like. He only wants to possess me, he doesn't like me. Chapter 1961. It seemed like there was a man who truly loved her and loved her as much as his own life. Why couldn't she remember? Yun Yuqing rubbed her aching forehead and frowned slightly. Her frown made her look even more pitiful. The green-clothed lady gritted her teeth. What was so good about this vixen? Why did the Alliance leader like her so much? An ungrateful woman like her did not deserve the Alliance leader's love. Yun Yuqing, don't blame me for being rude if you insist on not handing over the seal. The green-clothed lady sneered. Yun Yuqing was invincible within the ultimate god realm. It could be said that no ultimate god could defeat her. That was why she was so famous in the mainland. However, Yun Yuqing had yet to recover from her injuries. How could she possibly be a match for her? Boom! Yun Yuqing's aura surged when she saw the green-clothed lady about to attack. Her cold gaze was like a sharp sword that pressured the green-clothed lady so much that she could not breathe. Panic flashed through her heart. Wasn't she still injured? Where did she get such a strong aura? Lang Xinyue, do you really think you can do whatever you want just because I'm injured? Back then, I, Yun Yuqing, could defeat dozens of godly venerables on my own. Why would I need to expend so much effort to deal with a mere you? Her lips curled into a faint smile as she looked indifferently at Lang Xinyue. Lang Xinyue's eyes flashed with panic. You're fine. You want to know if I still have my previous strength? You can try. If you hadn't poisoned me, I wouldn't be afraid even if there were 100 of you at the same time. Yun Ruiqing took a few steps closer to Lang Xinyue. Lang Xinyue took a few steps back. She was used to being cautious. She didn't dare make a move until she was sure that Yun Ruiqing had truly recovered from his injuries. However, she was not willing to be at a disadvantage and bit her lip. Yun Ruiqing, I know you accepted a disciple in Drifting Wind Nation. If it wasn't for the Alliance leader dealing with important matters and comforting the old men in the Alliance, I would have gone to find trouble with your disciple long ago. Yun Ruiqing's eyes flashed with a cold light and his killing intent surged. However, Lang Xinyue smiled coldly. I don't mind telling you one thing. Recently, in order to deal with our Freedom Alliance, the 4 countries have begun planning to elect a genius to lead the 4 countries. Yun Ruiqing stopped and looked coldly at Lang Xinyue, waiting for her to continue. As for the Alliance Master, you've already looked for the Emperor of Golden Sun Country, Qing Feiyang, and asked him to use Nemesis Forest as the venue for the competition. In a few days, the geniuses from all the countries will arrive here. Lang Xinyue raised his chin slightly. According to a reliable source, your disciple is among them. Yun Ruiqing narrowed her eyes and clenched her fists tightly. Lang Xinyue laughed coldly. As for this Nemesis Forest, it will be their burial ground. Yun Ruiqing stared coldly at Lang Xinyue. You said that Qing Feiyang made peace with you. What's in it for him? Of course there are benefits. The Alliance Master promised Qing Feiyang that she would help him raise his strength to the godly supreme realm. You should know that Master has a secret technique that can help people reach the godly supreme realm quickly. However, this secret technique has side effects. Anyone who receives this secret technique will gradually wither and die after a few years. It's laughable that Qing Feiyang is an idiot. When he saw the Alliance Master use the secret technique on someone else in front of him, he believed it without a doubt. However, the Alliance Master lied to him and only said that the Freedom Alliance's target is the people of Drifting Wind Nation. As the fiancé of Drifting Wind Nation's princess, Chi Su will definitely participate. As for the matter of electing the leader of the 4 countries, the Freedom Alliance will not participate. Chapter 1962. Unfortunately, she had not expected Chi Su to join the country of Drifting Wind instead of the country of Drifting Wind. Yun Ruiqing gently closed her eyes. After a long while, she opened them again. Her tightly clenched fists were trembling. Have you said enough? If you have, then get out of my sight immediately. Boom! The earth-shattering aura pressed down on Lang Xinyue, causing her expression to change once again. She felt as if she could not breathe under the pressure. Yun Ruiqing, I'll let you have your way. Sooner or later, I'll make you kneel before me and beg for mercy. She glared angrily at Yun Ruiqing before she turned around and quickly disappeared into thin air. Yun Ruiqing was afraid that Lang Xinyue would return, so she did not withdraw her aura. After a long while, when she knew that Lang Xinyue would not return, her body turned limp and she collapsed to the ground, unable to hold on any longer. At that moment, a little tiger with blood-red stripes emerged from the forest. The other spiritual beasts also revealed themselves and walked towards Yun Ruiqing. They gently licked her beautiful face with their tongues. I'm fine, don't worry about me. Yun Ruiqing smiled. I've used my aura to force her away. However, I don't know if she will return in a few days. When that time comes, you must hide well. Don't let her see you. I don't want to put you in danger because of me. The little tiger raised its head and stared worriedly at Yun Ruiqing. Even though the spiritual beasts did not say anything, Yun Wuqing could sense their worry. In a few days, my disciple will most likely arrive in Nemesis Forest. When that time comes, you should pay more attention. If his life is in danger, let me know. If anything else happens, help him if you can. The little tiger nodded and laid down on the ground, allowing Yun Wuqing to rest against its body. Little tiger. Yun Wuqing stroked the little tiger with blood-red stripes. She then swept her gaze across the spiritual beasts and laughed bitterly. Actually, my injuries are getting worse and worse. The poison from back then has not been neutralized. I don't know how much longer I have left to live. In this life, the thing I regret the most is that I have not been able to regain my memories, nor can I remember my family. Yun Wuqing's eyes were filled with sorrow. However, I know that I have a daughter. Every time she woke up in the middle of the night, she would dream of a small figure tugging at her sleeve, crying and begging her not to go. Every time she dreamt of that tiny figure, her heart would throb in pain. If, after I die, I hope that you will be able to leave Nemesis Forest, find my daughter, and obey her orders. In reality, she has been searching for over 10 years, but she still could not find her relatives. How could she count on the spiritual beasts of Nemesis Forest? Even though she had already forgotten the past, a few scenes would occasionally flash through her mind. Those scenes showed that her daughter, like Lil Bling, was unable to cultivate. Hence, she hoped that the spiritual beasts of Nemesis Forest would be able to find her and protect her for the rest of her life. Woo, woo. Xiaohu whimpered a few times and rubbed his head against Yun Wuqing. His eyes were filled with tears. The other spirit beasts also let out sorrowful cries. At the same time, in the relay station of Wind Cloud City, Qing Feiyang felt uneasy. He had a feeling that something was about to happen. Your Majesty, Lord Wuzuan has arrived. Qing Feiyang was stunned before he said, invite him in. Chapter 1963. Unlike the other countries, the Golden Sun Nation had 3 godly venerable experts. Lord Wuzuan was one of the 3 ultimate gods. As he spoke, the elder dressed in a long gray robe walked in from outside the door and said directly, Your Majesty, I have something that I am very confused about. The competition that we discussed in Jinyang country was not held in Nemesis Forest. Why did you change the venue at the last minute without discussing it with me? Qing Feiyang's expression changed. He knew that he could not hide this matter from Lord Wuzuan. Hence, he did not hide it anymore and told the old man everything. Idiot! Hearing Qing Feiyang's explanation, Wuzuan's expression changed. Don't you know what kind of person the Freedom Alliance's new leader is? That leader is only in his 40s, but he is sinister and vicious. Do you believe that he lured the geniuses of the 4 nations to Nemesis Forest just to deal with Qi Su? Qing Feiyang was stunned and said weakly, Lord Wuzuan, I don't think so, right? Humph. Do you think the Freedom Alliance doesn't know the purpose of the 4-nation competition? Why would they be stupid enough to help you increase your strength? Isn't that asking for trouble? I suspect that the Freedom Alliance wants to kill all the geniuses of the 4 nations. Wuzuan gritted his teeth and said, Call Princess Jinyang back immediately. Don't let her continue participating in the competition. Wuzuan's eyes flashed coldly as he said sternly. What about the other princes? Our Golden Sun Nation does not lack princes. If you call everyone back, it will definitely arouse suspicion. Hence, let them perish on their own. As for Jinyang, he is the #1 genius of our Golden Sun Nation. He cannot be harmed. Yes. Qing Feiyang finally realized that he had trusted the Freedom Alliance because he could not resist the temptation of becoming an ultimate god. If Jinyang was really in danger, it would not be worth it. Clap. 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 At that moment, a clap came from outside. Qing Feiyang and the others' expressions changed. When they turned around, they saw a middle-aged man in black walking in. Although the man was already middle-aged, he was still very handsome. His eyes were filled with hostility, and his gaze was filled with arrogance. "It's you." The look in Qing Feiyang's eyes changed again. Looking at the man who had just walked in, he gritted his teeth and asked, "Tell me the truth. You suggested going to Nemesis Forest. Do you want to capture all the geniuses of the four nations in one go?" "That's right." The man did not deny Qing Feiyang's words. "The purpose of your four-nation youth competition is to deal with our Freedom Alliance. Could it be that I can let you go as I please?" A cold glint flashed across Qing Feiyang's eyes. "Then why have you come to find me now?" "Of course, I want to help you." The man gently curled the corner of his lips. "You've seen my secret technique. It's a piece of cake for me to create an ultimate god. Do you think you can defeat the Freedom Alliance by relying on the alliance of the four countries?" Qing Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. He recalled the power that the man had displayed earlier, and his forehead began to break out in cold sweat. He raised his head, wanting to wipe off the sweat on his forehead. Who knew that the more he wiped, the more there was, and he was unable to wipe it clean. "What is your purpose?" Wu Zuin asked as he looked coldly at the man. "It's very simple. I want your Golden Sun Nation to listen to my commands. Of course, I will do as you wish and help your Golden Sun Nation become the leader of the four nations. Furthermore, I will kill the other geniuses of the four nations." The man's lips curled up slightly. His voice was filled with a strong killing intent. Chapter 1964. Wu Zuin fell silent as he considered the pros and cons. "You can refuse, but you will end up the same as the other four nations. Even if you let Jin Yang return now, I will still kill her." The man raised his eyebrows as his eerie voice resounded in the study. "However, I have long heard of Princess Jin Yang's name and have admired her for a long time. If you agree, Jin Yang will be the object of your marriage." "No." Qing Feiyang's expression changed. "We do not agree. Jin Yang is not an object of exchange. We will not use her as a bargaining chip." Although Qing Feiyang was muddle-headed, snobbish, and greedy, he truly loved his daughter dearly. Furthermore, Jin Yang was the hope of the Golden Sun country. How could he abandon her? "I can agree to this condition on behalf of your Majesty." At this moment, Wu Zuin spoke up. "Lord Wu Zuin." Qing Feiyang's face turned ashen. "You cannot treat Jin Yang like this. Your Majesty, I know that you love Jin Yang, but she is just a woman. Do you want her to inherit the Golden Sun country?" Before this old man had already told Jin Yang that she had to obtain the first rank in this four-nation youth competition. Otherwise, this old man would let her marry the emperors of the three nations. With Jin Yang's status, she must be the empress of any nation. Qing Feiyang's eyes widened. He had not expected Wu Zuin to say such a thing to Jin Yang. "Of course, I was just trying to scare Jin Yang. The emperors of the three nations are not qualified to marry someone who can marry Jin Yang. Thus, I forced her to do her best to win first place." Wu Zuin glanced at Qing Feiyang and continued, "And now, the Freedom Alliance's leader is willing to marry Jin Yang. Why should we not agree?" Qing Feiyang's legs turned to jelly as he fell to the ground. His face was pale. In front of others, the experts of the Golden Sun country would give him face. However, behind the scenes, he did not have the right to make decisions in the Golden Sun country. "I think you are mistaken." Just as Qing Feiyang was in despair, the man smiled coldly. "I only want Jin Yang to be my woman, not to marry her. The only one who can be my wife is Yun Wuqing. Only she is worthy of my love. The other women can only be concubines. Wuzuan's expression was somewhat unsightly, but the Freedom Alliance was getting stronger and stronger. In addition, this man possessed such a powerful secret technique. It was not up to him to choose. Therefore, Wuzuan gritted his teeth. Okay. Lord Wuzuan. Qing Feiyang could not help but exclaim in disbelief. Wuzuan did not seem to notice his gaze and turned back to the man. Can we summon back the princes of Jinyang country? The man glanced at Wuzuan coldly. With the Freedom Alliance as your backing, what do you need those princes to do? In other words, it was impossible for the princes to stay in Jinyang country anymore. The corners of Qing Feiyang's mouth twitched. His face was filled with pain. Not only had he lost so many sons in this scheme, but he had also lost his most beloved daughter. The funny thing was that he didn't have the ability to save his daughter. That's right. Is there a lady in white beside the second prince of the kingdom of Tianqi? Qing Feiyang's eyes flickered. That lady looks too much like Qing. When the time comes, send her to my bed. Even if he could not obtain Yun Wuqing, finding a substitute was not a bad idea. Who asked him to love that cruel woman so much? Chapter 1965. Don't worry, Alliance Leader. When the time comes, I will definitely give that woman to you as a gift. Wuzuan replied expressionlessly. The man laughed. He flicked his sleeves, turned around, and walked towards the door. The people of the Freedom Alliance have already entered Nemesis Forest. If the Golden Sun country really wants to submit to me, then send people there to kill the geniuses of the three countries. His order was equivalent to forcing the Golden Sun country to become enemies with the three countries. Qing Feiyang's face paled even more, and his body was extremely weak. What did it mean to shoot oneself in the foot? No one knew it better than him. Your Majesty, this is an opportunity. Wuzuan looked at Qing Feiyang. If the Golden Sun country sends people there, we might be able to save the lives of those princes. Compared to the Golden Sun country, Wuzuan was willing to give up the lives of those geniuses. But, it would be best to have a chance to keep them alive. All right. Qing Feiyang opened his eyes, and his voice was weak. Lord Wuzuan, this time, you will personally lead the way, and bring Jinyang back. Wuzuan did not speak. The Freedom Alliance was no longer the same as before. Back then, the Freedom Alliance was only for self-preservation. Now, the Freedom Alliance was aggressive. If they wanted to survive on this mainland, they had to be willing to give up. Your Majesty, don't worry. Jinyang is far better off following the leader of the Freedom Alliance than anyone else. Jinyang was going to marry sooner or later, and no one in the four countries was worthy of her. Therefore, the leader of the Freedom Alliance was definitely her best choice. Bang! At this moment, the sound of someone kicking a stone came from outside the door. Wuzuan's eyes flashed sharply as he shouted, "Who is it?" Panic flashed across the face of the person outside the door. He turned around and wanted to escape, but very quickly, Wuzuan and Qing Feiyang both ran out. The Empress. Qing Feiyang was stunned. The Empress had come with them to Wind Cloud City, but they did not expect that their conversation would be discovered by the Empress. In fact, when the leader of the Freedom Alliance was still around, he had already sensed the presence of the Empress. However, he didn't take this weak woman seriously, nor did he wish to taint his hands with her blood. Therefore, he did not bring up the Empress. Empress, go back. Qing Feiyang's voice was filled with anxiety. The Empress's pale face was filled with fear as she knelt down. Your Majesty, do you not know Jinyang's character? Forcing her to marry a man she does not love is equivalent to asking her to die. Empress, this is a matter between men. Don't get involved. Guards, lock her up. Qing Feiyang glanced at Wu Zun, who was standing at the side, and hurriedly gave the Empress a look. Although Qing Feiyang was brainless and overbearing, he had true feelings for the Empress. "No, Your Majesty, I beg you to retract your order. Otherwise, I would rather die than watch my daughter marry the Freedom Alliance." What pained her even more was that in order to live, Qing Feiyang didn't even care about his daughter's happiness. A look of struggle flashed across Qing Feiyang's eyes, and Wu Zun happened to notice it. "Your Majesty, those who achieve great things do not bother about trifles. Moreover, you are marrying Jinyang to the Freedom Alliance for the sake of the entire Jinyang country. As for this woman, she has obviously interfered with Your Majesties." Wu Zun's eyes were cold and murderous. Chapter 1966. Feeling Wu Zun's murderous aura, Qing Feiyang panicked. "Lord Wu Zun, the Empress is not sensible. I will keep a close watch on her and prevent her from interfering with official matters." "Lord Wu Zun, please." Before Qing Feiyang could finish speaking, Wu Zun had already made his move. His body quickly flashed in front of the Empress, his sharp claws fiercely piercing through her chest. Under her unwilling and resentful gaze, he dug out her heart. Bang! The Empress fell to the ground in a pool of blood. Her eyes were wide open, and she died with a grievance. "No!" Qing Feiyang's eyes were bloodshot as he screamed at the top of his lungs. He clenched his fists tightly and asked in a furious voice, "Your Excellency Wu Zun, the Empress can't interfere with my decision. Why did you kill her?" "Your Majesty, I've long felt that this woman would be able to move you. It's just that she didn't go too far before, so I turned a blind eye. But now, this matter concerns the entire Jinyang country. I won't allow you to struggle like this." Wu Zun's expression was cold as he glanced at the woman in the pool of blood with disgust. "Moreover, as the Emperor, isn't it easy for you to marry an Empress? A disobedient woman can only end up like this." Qing Feiyang took a deep breath. "If Jinyang finds out about this, do you think she will still listen to our arrangements and marry the leader of the Freedom Alliance? If the Empress is still alive, we can still use her to threaten her." At this moment, Qing Feiyang's heart was trembling. He closed his eyes, and his pale face was drained of blood. He regretted it. He regretted forming a relationship with the Freedom Alliance. Otherwise, not only would he have stuck to his daughter, but even his wife would not have died. Only we know about the Empress' death. How would Jinyang know? When the time comes, we can say that the Empress was captured by the Freedom Alliance. We can use this to force her and guarantee that Jinyang will marry into the Freedom Alliance. Wu Zun had already thought of an excuse, and his face was filled with a confident smile. Qing Feiyang closed his eyes slightly. There was an unconcealable pain between his brows, but in the face of the powerful Lord Wu Zun, he could not resist at all. "Your Majesty, you saw what happened to the Empress. If you dare to say anything to Jinyang, I guarantee that he will not live." Wu Zun threatened. Qing Feiyang's body trembled. After a long time, he opened his eyes and said, "Not only am I a father, I am also the Emperor of Jinyang country. For the sake of Jinyang country, I will not speak carelessly." "I hope so." Wu Zun smiled coldly as he waved his sleeves and walked out of the courtyard. After Wu Zun left, Qing Feiyang's legs went soft, and he fell to the ground. "If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have brought the Empress here." At this moment, no one noticed that when the Empress died, her eyes were fixed on a corner not far away. In the corner, a palace maid covered her mouth tightly, not allowing herself to cry out. Tears flowed down her eyes as she looked at the Empress in the pool of blood without blinking. In reality, before this, the Empress was not eavesdropping alone outside. There was also this palace made here at the same time. Wuzuan's SSA King and said, and she said, and said's Chent, she, and said, King. Chen's, King, and T, of course, she did not do this to save the maid. She just hoped that someone could send a message to Jinyang. It was also because of the Empress's actions that this palace maid was not discovered from beginning to end. Chapter 1967. No, I have to look for the princess. After Wuzuan and Qing Feiyang left, the palace maid quickly ran out of the relay station. But she had only taken a few steps when she bumped into Mo Qianqing, who was coming towards her. Mo Qianqing was furious when he realized that Yun Luofeng had left him behind. Now that he had bumped into the palace maid, he shouted angrily, "Are you from the kingdom of Tianqi?" You. The palace maid stood up and looked at the young man in front of her. She thought for a moment and asked, "Are you from the kingdom of Tianqi?" It was no secret that only 4 people from the kingdom of Tianqi had come to Wind Cloud City. Naturally, the palace maid had gone to watch the commotion and remembered the young man standing next to Yun Luofeng. Suddenly, the palace maid seemed to recall something and said hurriedly, "Since you are from the kingdom of Tianqi, hurry to Nemesis Forest." Nemesis Forest. Mo Qianqing tilted his head in confusion. The geniuses from the 4 nations are going to Nemesis Forest to participate in the competition. However, this competition is a conspiracy by the Freedom Alliance. All the geniuses in Nemesis Forest will be in danger. When the palace maid finished speaking, Mo Qianqing's expression changed drastically. A vicious aura emerged from his body and he dashed out of the relay station with a swoosh. This palace maid was too stupid. She only knew that Mo Qianqing was from the kingdom of Tianqi, but she did not know if Mo Qianqing had been recruited by Qing Feiyang. Hence, she had told him this secret. If it had been someone else, she might have suffered the calamity of having her entire family annihilated. Unfortunately, the palace maid had no other choice. She did not know how long it would take for her to reach Nemesis Forest with her speed. However, Mo Qianqing had coincidentally bumped into her at this time. She seemed to have grabbed onto a life-saving straw and told him about this matter. Now that she saw Mo Qianqing leave, the palace maid finally heaved a sigh of relief. However, she did not relax because of this and hurriedly walked out. Nemesis Forest stretched as far as the eye could see. Many geniuses had already rushed into the forest. As they looked at the dense forest, those who had experienced countless difficulties would feel timid. "Your Highness." Suddenly, a guard moved closer to Jinyang and whispered, "His Majesty just sent a letter. He told you not to enter Nemesis Forest." Jinyang was stunned and his eyes were filled with astonishment. "Why? This competition is so important, why do you want me to withdraw?" Lord Wuzun had said that if she did not win the championship, he would order her to marry the emperors of the 4 countries. However, she had always been proud and arrogant. How could she be willing to share a husband with another woman? So, in order to not be randomly assigned by Wuzun, she could only win and not lose. "I don't know either. It was His Majesty's order for you to leave secretly and not tell anyone. Not even my royal brothers. This is His Majesty's order." Jinyang fell silent. Ever since then, she had felt a little flustered, as if something had happened. But now, in the face of such an important competition, Father Emperor had actually asked her to withdraw from the competition. Furthermore, he didn't want to let her brothers know. Jinyang took a deep breath and said, "I understand. You will leave soon." "Your Highness, now you." Jinyang didn't say anything and slowly walked towards Yun Luofeng. When Qi Su and the others saw Jinyang approaching, their eyes turned cold and vigilant, as if they were afraid that she would suddenly attack them. After all, they were now in Nemesis Forest. According to the rules, the geniuses could attack each other. Chapter 1968. What's your name? Jin Yang looked at Yun Luofeng and asked. Yun Luofeng glanced at Jin Yang and slightly curled the corners of her lips. Yun Luofeng. I admire you. If there's a chance, I must challenge you to a battle. Jin Yang's cold brows carried a hint of arrogance and her tone was even more domineering. Her high-pitched voice fell into everyone's ears. The guards, who had thought that Jin Yang wanted to say something, heaved a sigh of relief when they heard this. The princess had always been belligerent. It was normal for her to issue a challenge. However, they did not understand why the princess would be so interested in this woman. Could it be that she could fight against the princess? Jin Yang lowered his eyes and deliberately lowered his voice. My imperial father has ordered me to retreat. He doesn't want me to tell anyone about this. Be careful when you're in Nemesis Forest. I have a feeling that something is about to happen. Her voice was very soft, so soft that only Yun Luofeng, Chi Su, and the others could hear it. After saying this, Jin Yang turned around and left. From the first time she saw Yun Luofeng, she had treated this woman as her opponent. It did not matter if they became friends or enemies in the future. She did not want this woman to die in Nemesis Forest. Miss Yun, what does she mean by this? Chi Su was stunned and asked in confusion. Yun Luofeng gently narrowed her eyes. After you enter Nemesis Forest, be careful. Princess Jin Yang would not have reminded us of this for no reason. In reality, before this, Yun Luofeng had not felt much about Jin Yang. But now, she had reminded her. If what Jin Yang had said was true, then this competition would not be so simple. We can go now. Jin Yang walked in front of the guards and calmly looked at the rest of the people from Jin Sun Country. I have something to do and have to leave. You can enter Nemesis Forest first. I will be back soon. The rest of the people from Jin Sun Country did not notice the strangeness in Jin Yang's words. Furthermore, from their point of view, no matter what happened, Jin Yang would not abandon such an important competition. Jin Yang did not have much affection for these princes. In fact, she hated them. As such, she did not warn them and walked down the mountain on her own. At that moment, Jin Yang still didn't know that because of her warning to Yun Luofeng, a hand would drag her out of the wolf's den the instant she fell into it in the future. Jin Yang's departure did not cause too much of a stir among the geniuses. To them, it was best if Jin Yang didn't participate in the competition. That way, they would have a chance to win first place. On the contrary, Yun Luofeng was in deep thought because of Jin Yang's words, second imperial brother. Chi Yu curled the corners of his lips and gently walked towards Qi Ling. He then raised his head arrogantly. You'd better be careful in this Nemesis Forest. Otherwise, I'm afraid that not even your bones will be left. Ha ha ha. Qi Yu laughed and led the army behind him into the forest. Qi Ling acted as if he did not hear him. His eyelids did not even twitch, as if he had completely ignored his existence. Let's go too. Everyone had already walked in. Yun Luofeng glanced at the few people behind him, then his gaze landed on Mu Shuoxin's face. You can come with us. Mu Shuoxin was overjoyed and quickly nodded, okay. Of course, when Yun Luofeng's words fell into the ears of the people from the other countries, they thought that she was timid and wanted to rely on the soldiers of Drifting Wind Country to show off her might. Chapter 1969. At this moment, it was exceptionally quiet in Nemesis Forest. Even the sound of their footsteps on the ground could be heard clearly. Even though they had encountered countless spiritual beasts along the way, before Yun Luofeng could make a move, Qi Ling and the rest had already dealt with the spiritual beasts. We haven't been able to find where the jade seal has been hidden along the way. If we continue, I'm afraid that we will reach the depths of Nemesis Forest. Chi Su glanced at Yun Luofeng and slowly asked. Miss Yun, should we continue? Yun Luofeng looked at the empty space behind her. She could sense a familiar aura in the space behind her and gently raised the corners of her lips. Let's continue. It was as if Yun Shao following behind her would make her fearless. All right. Chi Su and the rest no longer hesitated and nodded in response. Hence, the group did not stop and continued to walk deeper into the forest. The deeper they went, the stronger the spiritual beasts they encountered. Yun Luofeng slowly retracted her emotions and no longer let her guard down like before. Miss Yun, look. Suddenly, Chi Su pointed at a giant bird flying in the sky. His eyes were filled with excitement. Look, isn't that bird holding a jade seal in its beak? Hearing this, Yun Luofeng raised her head and looked. At that moment, the image of a giant, fiery-colored bird flying across the sky was reflected in her eyes. What was even more clear was the jade seal in the bird's beak. The bird must have unintentionally picked up the jade seal in the forest but did not know what it was used for. Hence, it left with it in its beak and coincidentally flew right in front of them. Chi Su, take down this firebird. All right. Chi Su raised his hand and a wave of spiritual energy gathered in his palm, turning into a sharp sword which shot towards the bird with a loud bang. In that instant, the bird let out a mournful cry and fell from the sky, landing heavily on the ground. In reality, along the way, Chi Su and the rest had held back their strength. Only against spiritual beasts that wanted to kill them would he give them a taste of their own medicine. For spiritual beasts like the bird that did not provoke them, he only injured them and did not kill them. It really is the jade seal. This is the jade seal of Drifting Wind Country. Mu Shuoxin's heart flashed with joy. She quickly walked up to Chi Su and curled the corners of her lips. Miss Yun, Mu Shuoxin thought for a moment and handed the jade seal to Yun Luofeng. I'll give this jade seal to you. Compared to someone else ruling the 4 countries, I would rather you be the one. Yun Luofeng did not stand on ceremony with her and kept the jade seal. Let's continue. They didn't know if it was because they were lucky, but after a while, they found a cave. Behind the cave was the imperial jade seal of Jinyang country. It didn't take much effort for them to obtain the imperial jade seal. There were only 4 jade seals in total, and Yun Luofeng had already obtained 2. This meant that she already had a 50% chance of winning. Just as they continued to move forward, they suddenly found that the people of Jinyang country and Qiao Zishuan of the Purple Moon country were already fighting. Qiao Zishuan, hand over the jade seal. The prince of Jinyang country's face was cold and stern as he shouted. If you want the jade seal, then come and get it. If you don't have the ability, then what is the point? Qiao Zishuan said fearlessly. Chapter 1970. If the Golden Sun Princess was still here, he would be a little afraid. However, the Golden Sun Princess has not entered Nemesis Forest yet. Why would he be afraid of the person in front of him? Qiao Zishuan, you really refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. The Prince of the Golden Sun country sneered and said contemptuously. Qiao Zishuan wanted to go back, but at this moment, he saw Yun Luofeng and the others appear in his line of sight. He was stunned for a moment before he sneered. Qingli, the teams from the Tian Qi country and Drifting Wind country have also arrived. They must also have the jade seal. How about we join forces to deal with them? At the thought of Yun Shao killing Qiao Yefeng, Qiao Zishuan gnashed his teeth in hatred and a cold light flashed in his eyes. The Prince of the Golden Sun country, Qingli, looked at Yun Luofeng, obviously thinking about Qiao Zishuan's proposal. After a long time, he said, "If that's the case, then let's snatch the thing in her hands first." The 4 countries had gathered. Apart from the people brought by Chiyu, everyone else had arrived. It was obvious that the Drifting Wind country and the Tian-Chi country were on the same side, and the Golden Sun country and the Purple Moon country had formed an alliance. Yun Luofeng crossed his arms over his chest. The smile on his lips was lazy and evil as he leaned lazily against the ancient tree behind him. "Are you sure you want to fight now?" "Humph." Qiao Zishuan snorted coldly. "If you know what's good for you and hand over the jade seal, we will spare your life." In Nemesis Forest, there were endless dangers. Therefore, even if he killed Yun Luofeng here, no one would know. Yun Luofeng put down his arms and smiled faintly. "Unfortunately, you won't have the chance, Yun Yi." Whoosh! In an instant, a light flashed and Yun Yi's burly body landed heavily on the ground, his face expressionless. Heavenly God! He did not hide his aura at all, and everyone present was stunned. Qiao Zishuan gritted his teeth. "Mu Shuexin from the Drifting Wind country is not enough, and the Tian-Chi country is small in number. With our combined strength, we may be able to deal with this heavenly god." As soon as he finished speaking, Qiao Zishuan ordered the people behind him to rush forward. However, before those people could reach Yun Luofeng and the others, a black eagle-like figure slowly appeared in the sky and quickly landed in front of Yun Luofeng. The man was handsome, cold, and tall, but it caused Qiao Zishuan's expression to change drastically, his eyes surging with fear. "You! Why are you here?" The Ghost Emperor actually followed him here. Didn't they know that they were breaking the rules? Yun Shao did not speak, and he did not even look at Qiao Zishuan from the beginning to the end. He shielded Yun Luofeng in his arms as his handsome features slowly grew cold. Someone's coming. Moreover, it wasn't just 1 or 2 of them. Before Qiao Zishuan and the others could recover from their shock, they saw countless figures flying over from the void not far away. Those people's auras were very powerful, so powerful that even the heavens and the earth paled in comparison. The people of the Golden Sun country, who were originally in a state of panic, suddenly saw Wu Zun among the group of people, and the fear in their eyes turned into joy. Lord Wu Zun. Unfortunately, Wu Zun did not even look at them. His eyes were filled with a cold light as a murderous aura enveloped the entire area. The people of the Golden Sun country finally realized that something was wrong and shut their mouths, not saying another word. "Lord Wu Zun of the Golden Sun country, why are you here?" Qiao Zishuan was stunned. He did not think that Wu Zun had followed Yun Shao here because he knew that he had come to disrupt the competition. Chapter 1971. At that moment, Qiao Zishuan recalled Princess Jean Yang's sudden departure. Somehow, he felt uneasy. More importantly, the people who came with Wu Zun were all ultimate god experts. Since when were there so many ultimate god experts in the continent? Ha ha ha. Looks like everyone is here except for that useless third prince from the Tianqi kingdom. However, it's fine if that useless person isn't here. It doesn't matter. A lovely laugh rang out. A beautiful woman in green walked out from the group of people. The woman's eyes swept across and saw the woman beside Yun Shao. A hint of jealousy appeared in her eyes. Yun Wuqing was one thing, but now, there was another woman who looked exactly like Yun Wuqing. Especially since the Alliance Master was interested in this woman. "Miss Xinyue, I wonder if you can let these geniuses from the Golden Sun country go." Wu Zun turned to the woman in green and asked cautiously. This woman was not only the Alliance Master's junior sister but also his concubine. He could not afford to offend her. The Alliance Master has ordered that all the geniuses who came to Nemesis Forest will be killed, including the Golden Sun country. Lang Xinyue's eyes flashed with disdain as she said coldly. Wu Zun's expression changed. He looked at the people from the Golden Sun country and wanted to say something but could not find the words. Lord Wu Zun, what's going on? Cheng Li's expression was very ugly as he clenched his fists tightly. Jin Yang also said that she had something to do and left. Did she know what we were going to face? Wu Zun glanced at Cheng Li and said indifferently, Jin Yang doesn't know anything. She was just lucky that the Freedom Alliance master took a liking to her. That's why I let her leave first. Does father know about this? Cheng Li gritted his teeth. His Majesty has known for a long time. The agreement with the Alliance was also made by His Majesty. Originally, the people from the Golden Sun country still had hope in their hearts, especially Cheng Li. He still respected and admired his father. However, these people were telling him that his father had decided to give up on them. No. Cheng Li clenched his fists and shouted at the top of his lungs, You're lying to me. I'm Imperial Father's son after all. How could Imperial Father treat me like this? Your Highness the Fourth Prince, His Majesty also has his own difficulties, but he has no other choice. This is an order from the Freedom Alliance, and we cannot disobey it. It was obvious that the Jinyang nation was already a part of the Freedom Alliance. They didn't dare to go against the Alliance's orders. Qi Ling's eyes flashed coldly. So, our coming to Nemesis Forest is also part of the Jinyang country and the Freedom Alliance's scheme? He said that he wanted the four nations to join forces to deal with the Freedom Alliance, but in the end, he became the Freedom Alliance's lackey. You want to capture all four countries in one fell swoop? That's right, Wu Zun did not deny it. Right now, Nemesis Forest will be your burial ground. However, on account that you are from the four nations, this old man will allow you to understand yourselves. His voice was very arrogant, and it was obvious that he did not take this group of geniuses seriously. He did not think he could defeat so many ultimate god experts on his own. Even the Ghost Emperor was the only one he was a little afraid of. That was obviously impossible. Yun Xiao stood by Yun Luofeng's side and protected her in his arms. His cold eyes looked at the many experts who surrounded them, and the murderous intent in his black eyes was gradually revealed. Chapter 1972. The geniuses from the various countries were filled with despair. The faces of the people from Jinyang country were ashen. They had worked so hard to fight for their country, but in the end, they had been abandoned. No, I don't believe it. Cheng Li clutched his head tightly and howled in agony. Father would never do this to me, never. Where's Jinyang? Where's she? Suddenly, Cheng Li thought of Jinyang who had left, and a trace of anger flashed across his pained eyes. Jinyang must have found out about this long ago. That's why he had left so early. What a pity that they were still fighting for their country's honor. Where Jinyang goes has nothing to do with you. Wu Zun's expression turned cold. I only know that everyone who has come to Nemesis Forest today will be buried here. Boom! Wu Zun's aura crushed down like a mountain. Cheng Li's face was pale and he could not say a word. The pain in his eyes could not be concealed no matter how hard he tried. Run! Qiao Zishuan gritted his teeth, turned around and leaped towards the back of the mountain. However, he had only taken a few steps when a sharp swordlight suddenly attacked him and ruthlessly pierced through his chest. Fresh blood spurted out from his chest, causing his eyes to widen. He unwillingly fell to the ground and lost all signs of life. Who else wants to try and escape? Lang Xinyue smiled coldly and raised the corners of his lips in disdain. In this world, no one has ever escaped from me, Lang Xinyue's pursuit. You are no exception. Except for that woman, Yun Wuqing. However, there would not be two Yun Wuqing in this world. Lang Xinyue's eyes swept across the crowd and looked at Yun Luofeng once again. His face was so similar to Yun Yueqing's that she could not wait to tear it apart. Let's see how he would be able to seduce another man. Leave it to me. Yun Xiao lowered her eyes and whispered into Yun Luofeng's ear. After he said that, he let go of the woman in his arms and glared at the crowd in the void with a pair of cold eyes. Whoosh! At this moment, the man's energy was completely unleashed. His expression was grave and stern, and his long black robe fluttered in the wind. He was like a hawk in the darkness, so powerful that it struck fear into the hearts of people. Lang Xinyue's mind also couldn't help but restrain, and his gaze towards Yun Xiao gradually became cautious. All of you, attack. Other than that woman, leave no one alive. That woman was the Alliance Master's designated replacement, so no matter how much she wanted to kill her, she had to control her. The experts in the sky pressed down, all of them leaping towards the crowd on the ground. Because of Qiao Zishuan's death, the Purple Moon Kingdom has become a group of dragons without a leader. These famous geniuses in the country have fallen into a pool of blood under the slaughter of this group of strong people. Miss Yun, these people are ultimate gods. I'm afraid we won't be able to escape this time. Qi Ling's face was filled with despair. At this moment, the first person he thought of was his deceased wife's younger sister. If he were to die in Nemesis Forest, who would be able to protect her in the future? He was afraid that she would be sold by her relatives again. Yun Luofeng gently squinted her eyes and crossed her arms in front of her chest while leaning against the tree trunk. Her lazy eyes had a faint light in them, and the corners of her lips were curved into a smile. Qi Su was delighted to see Yun Luofeng's calm expression. Is Miss Yun thinking of a way to deal with this group of ultimate gods? Chapter 1973. No, Yun Luofeng faintly answered with a smile. Then what are you thinking about, Miss Yun? I'm thinking, why is my man so graceful even when he's killing someone? Qi Su was petrified. At such a critical moment, you're still in the mood to feed those single dogs dog food? At the same time, Lang Xinyue's expression turned more solemn than before. In the air, facing the reverend god's coercion, the man's movements were still very agile and he was not forced to stop for a moment by any attacks. When did such a genius appear on this continent? Other than that damn woman Yun Yueqing, who else could face so many reverend gods and not be at a disadvantage? No, if this continues, I'm afraid there will be changes. Lang Xinyue narrowed her eyes and suddenly looked at the woman in the crowd, a fierce glint flashing through her eyes. Stop this man for me. After saying this, Lang Xinyue swiftly rushed toward Yun Luofeng below. In the sky, Yun Xiao looked down at Lang Xinyue who was rushing toward Yun Luofeng and a mocking smile turned up on his lips. No one knew his woman better than him. How could a reverent god hurt her? Then she was underestimating her too much. However, Yun Xiao still moved. With a lift of his hand, a fierce wind slashed down from the sky and rushed toward Lang Xinyue. Ignoring the attacks behind her, Lang Xinyue quickly caught up with Yun Luofeng. A fierce glint flashed through her eyes and she raised her hand, wanting to strangle Yun Luofeng's neck. However, just as her hand was about to land on Yun Luofeng's neck, an arm firmly grasped her hand without warning. You said that no one who comes to the Forest of Heaven's trial can leave. Then I'll return those words to you. Boom! In an instant, the woman's body was covered by a layer of dragon scales. She exerted force on her wrist and slammed her palm on Lang Xinyue's chest. If it was in the past, with Lang Xinyue's strength, she might not be hit by Yun Luofeng. Unfortunately, she was too careless this time and did not expect this woman, who was only a heavenly god, to be able to suppress her. Just as Lang Xinyue retreated a few steps, Yun Xiao's attack also approached her from behind. With a bang, her body was sent flying. She continuously spat out blood. The woman standing in front of her was covered in white dragon scales. Her eyes were cold and sharp, and she was looking down at her with her arms crossed. Lang Xinyue's face was a little pale. Suddenly, she laughed. I didn't expect you to be so powerful at such a young age. Even that woman is not as talented as you. Unfortunately, the alliance leader won't let you off. Who asked you to look so much like her? Yun Luofeng slightly narrowed her eyes, and a cold glint suddenly appeared in her eyes. Tell me why you're here. Lang Xinyue closed her eyes slightly. This time, they were really careless. They didn't expect that there would be two such powerful people in the four countries. First, Yun Xiao, who was able to effortlessly deal with so many reverent gods by himself. Now, this woman, who was a heavenly god, possessed such powerful strength. Just by looking at these two people, she knew that she had lost this strategy. At this time, the remaining people in the four countries were all dumbfounded. Qi Su and Qi Ling had long known of Yun Luofeng's strength. Chapter 1974. However, the others did not know. Cheng Li's eyes widened in shock as he stared at the handsome black-robed man in the sky with astonishment. Then, he looked at the white-robed woman standing on the narrow, winding path. His expression changed from despair to hope. However, more than that, it was the shock in his heart. Jin Yang was very talented and was known as the #1 in the four nations. However, Jin Yang did not have the strength to resist the attacks of the ultimate gods. He did not even have the ability to remain calm under the threat of so many ultimate gods. The people of Jinyang country originally looked down on Yun Luofeng and the others. Otherwise, they would not have planned to ally with the Purple Moon country. However, Yun Luofeng and Yun Zhao's strength made them feel fear from the bottom of their hearts. Fortunately, the people of the Freedom Alliance came in time. Otherwise, they would have made a mistake that they could never make up for. Even without Yun Zhao's appearance, Yun Luofeng could fight against the ultimate gods. How could they fight? Could they? If it wasn't for that idiot Xiao Zishuan, he would not have wanted to take the jade seal from Yun Luofeng. Thinking of this, Cheng Li gritted his teeth. If Xiao Zishuan was still alive, he would definitely tear that damn bastard into pieces. Hee hee. Lang Xinyue crawled up from the ground and laughed icily. Her lips curled into a mocking smile as she said, "Even though I've underestimated your powers, I'll make you suffer this time as well." As soon as she finished speaking, she took out a flute from somewhere and started playing it. As soon as he heard the sound, Yun Luofeng knew that she was playing the music of beast control. As expected, following the sound of the flute, all the spirit beasts within 100 miles rushed towards Yun Luofeng and the others at a fierce and fast speed. Qi Su. Mu Shuoxin's heart tightened and she subconsciously held Qi Su's hand. Her clear and bright eyes were filled with worry. Qi Su held her little hand instead, as if to give her strength. Facing the panic of the crowd, Yun Luofeng stood under the breeze, calm and indifferent. His evil black eyes were calm, without a ripple of emotion. What was the stampede of beasts? At this moment, everyone clearly saw it. As these spiritual beasts ran wildly, the ground trembled incessantly. It was as if all the spiritual beasts in Nemesis Forest were surging out at the same time. Lang Xinyue put down her flute. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth as she said sarcastically, "I want to see if you can handle so many godly venerables and spirit beasts." Even if Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao could deal with it, the others would not be able to escape death. Yun Luofeng was already prepared for battle. Dragon scale armor covered her entire body, and even her face was covered in white dragon scales. She looked majestic, like a general who could destroy the world. The leader of the group of spiritual beasts was a small tiger with blood-colored stripes. It let out a mighty roar and charged swiftly, leaving a cloud of dust behind it. But, when the spirit beasts rushed past the people of the Golden Sun country, they did not even stop. Perhaps it was because of the abnormal reaction of these spirit beasts that Yun Luofeng did not make the first move. Instead, he watched as the spirit beasts got closer and closer. Roar! The blood-colored striped tiger let out a mighty roar and charged towards Lang Xinyue. As for the flying beasts, they attacked the godly venerables who were fighting Yun Xiao. Lang Xinyue's smile froze before she could even disappear. She was scared silly by the scene in front of her. She did not even have time to react, and the group of spiritual beasts was right in front of her. Only when a claw scratched her face did she cry out in shock and anger. Chapter 1975. What do you want? I'm your master. Her beast-taming skill was useless now. Impossible. She had just tried it a few days ago. Even the people from the Four Nations were dumbfounded, let alone the people from the Freedom Alliance. What was going on? Did Lang Xinyue's beast-taming skill backfire? Otherwise, why would the spiritual beasts she controlled attack them instead? The beasts' attacks were ferocious, but the ultimate gods were almost exhausted when they fought with Yun Xiao. Hence, more than half of them were dead in a short while. The blood-colored striped tiger stopped in front of Yun Luofeng and looked at her curiously. A hint of doubt flashed across its eyes. Strange. Why does this human woman have a similar aura to Master Yu Qing's? Could she be the daughter Master Yu Qing had been looking for? Deep in Nemesis Forest, Yun Yu Qing was lying on the ground. Her body curled into a ball and her face was terrifyingly pale. Compared to the eruption of the poison in her body, the pain in her head felt like it was about to explode. It was as if a force had rushed through her brain and was about to break out. Yun family. Brother Yang, Feng Yun Yu Qing closed her eyes slightly under the intense pain. A tear rolled down her cheek. I finally remember, she was the daughter-in-law of the Yun family, Yun Yang's wife. Yun Yu Qing's fingers squeezed her chest tightly, her heart aching terribly. Her beautiful face was so pale that it was devoid of color. Her expression was as fragile as a piece of paper that could shatter at any time. Should I thank my good senior brother or hate him? If he hadn't poisoned me, I wouldn't have recalled all my memories when the poison erupted. But why do I have to remember all those painful things when I'm about to die? She had been suppressing the poison all these years to be able to live safely. Now, her power could no longer suppress the poison's eruption. However, she never expected that she would remember everything in the past on the eve of her death. She even remembered her husband's death. If I can't remember anything, perhaps I can still die peacefully. Yun Yu Qing's vision began to blur and his eyes dimmed. Brother Yang, you're no longer here, but I've dragged out an ignoble existence all by myself. Now, I can finally go down and accompany you. Her vision became more and more blurry. Vaguely, she saw a figure in white sitting on a small tiger with blood-red stripes, quickly running towards her. Brother Yang, I'm sorry, I'm here to accompany you. Yun Yu Qing closed her eyes. The moment she closed her eyes, she seemed to see the nervousness and worry of the woman on the little tiger's back. Woo-woo. Little tiger stopped and continued to whimper. His eyes were filled with sorrow and his eyes were filled with tears. Yun Luofeng quickly got down from little tiger's body and hurried to Yun Yu Qing's side. When she felt the woman's weak breathing, she slowly relaxed. Shut up, she's not dead yet. When the little tiger heard this, it closed its eyes quietly. Only then did Yun Luofeng examine Yun Yu Qing's injuries in peace. Just now, little tiger had sensed an aura similar to Yun Yu Qing's from Yun Luofeng's body. That was why he had asked Yun Luofeng about their relationship. Chapter 1976. Yes, little tiger could speak. It was just that spiritual beasts like them were used to living in Nemesis Forest and rarely used human language to communicate. After all, it was impossible for a godly venerable realm spiritual beast to not know human language. Yun Luofeng had left the battlefield and asked Little Tiger to bring her here after learning that Yun Wuqing was also in Nemesis Forest and was severely injured. As for those godly venerable realm cultivators, Yun Shao would take care of them soon. This is an antidote herb. Feed it to her and temporarily control the poison. However, it will take some time to expel the poison. Yun Luofeng frowned. Yun Wuqing. Oh, no, Bai Ling's poison was more complicated. It was the most difficult poison she had ever encountered. It could not be completely removed in a short period of time. This poison would take at least half a month to be removed. After feeding Bai Ling the antidote herb, Yun Luofeng quickly took out a silver needle and pierced it into her heart. She then took out Little Worm from the divine grimoire space and said, "Give me a drop of blood." What? Little Worm was shocked and said weakly, "Master, you know how important blood is to the dragon clan. If you take away a drop of blood, I will need a few months to recover." You're from the ancestral dragon clan, right? Yun Luofeng asked calmly. Little Worm's eyes flashed with caution. Why do you ask? Do you want to return to your real clan? Little Worm was the dragon clan's ancestor, but that did not mean the dragon clan was born because of him. Instead, Little Worm came from the ancestral dragon clan. To normal dragon clan members, any ancestral dragon was their ancestor. Little Worm's gaze became even more cautious. Mistress, just say what you want. Will you really help me return to the ancestral dragon clan? That's right. I'm guessing that the ancestral dragon clan migrated with the birth of the spirit god continent many years ago. If you give me a drop of blood essence, I'll help you return to the ancestral dragon clan. This is a fair deal. Little Worm's eyes lit up when he saw the woman's calm expression. As long as he could return to the ancestral dragon clan, he would be willing to give 10 drops of blood, let alone 1. All right, it's a deal. The little worm wriggled its little butt excitedly. It bit its own tongue and forced a drop of blood out of its mouth, slowly drifting into Bai Ling's mouth. With the help of this drop of blood, Bai Ling's face gradually regained its rosy color. Wisps of black gas also floated out of her chest along with the silver needle. Bai Ling, who was lying on the ground, let out a soft moan and opened her eyes slightly. As soon as she opened her eyes, she felt a warm tongue licking her face, causing her expression to change. I'm not dead. Bai Ling did not want to die before she regained her memory. However, when she regained her memory, she recalled the scene of her husband's tragic death. To her, living would only increase the pain. Don't tell me you want to end this by killing yourself. Don't tell me you think death is a release. No, you're dead. You're free, but you're making the living suffer. Grandfather's hair has already turned white all these years because of you. Second uncle has suffered for so many years. Yun Luofeng looked at Bai Ling's pained expression and continued, Qi Su has also been chased out of the Qi family. Qi Ling even said that once she has the power, she will come to Nemesis Forest to look for you. So many people care about you and care about you. You only want to free yourself, but have you never thought about your loved ones who are still alive? Chapter 1977. Yun Luofeng's words caused Bai Ling's body to tremble. She raised her eyes in astonishment. In an instant, a beautiful and demonic face appeared in her line of sight. This woman was dressed in clothes as white as snow. Her facial features were very similar to Bai Ling's, but she was more domineering and demonic. Bai Ling hurriedly covered her mouth as tears flowed down from her eyes. All these years, even though she had lost her memory, she still remembered that there was a daughter waiting for her at home. But now, her daughter was standing in front of her, but she didn't dare to acknowledge her. It's Feng, er? Yun Luofeng's expression gradually softened. Her words confirmed her identity. Mother, grandfather and second uncle are all waiting for you at home. If they know that you are still alive, they will definitely be very happy. Do you have the heart to let them never see you again in their lifetime? Bai Ling put her hand down as tears flowed freely down her face. She suddenly stood up from the ground and rushed over to hug the woman in front of her tightly. Feng, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. All these years, I've never returned to see you. Ever since father and mother left, did those people bully you? She sobbed so hard that her voice couldn't be heard. She didn't know how her daughter had passed all these years that she had been away. Every time she thought of this, her heart would be surrounded by guilt. After a long time, she finally let go of the woman in front of her. Her eyes were filled with tears. All these years, have your grandfather and second uncle been well? Back then, second uncle thought that you and father had died. He wanted to work hard to increase his strength and avenge you. Who knew that because his talent was too strong, he would attract a spoiled brat to compete with him? He defeated that spoiled brat, but that brought about the revenge of the spoiled brat's family. Under those people's revenge, second uncle's strength was crippled and his body was crippled. In order to survive, he pretended to be dead and hid in a dark secret room. He hid for more than 10 years. Yun Luofeng's words made Bai Ling's lips tremble. Her heart was gripped tightly and the pain was unbearable. This brother-in-law of mine is such a virtuous person. What kind of environment caused him to live in such humiliation? He just didn't want the old man to have to watch his son die before him again. Feng, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. She really did not know that in all these years, the Yun family had suffered such a huge change. This can't be blamed on you, because you've lost your memories. Yun Luofeng seemed to think of something and continued to ask, that's right, since you're still alive, then father, was he still alive? Bai Ling's body stiffened and her beautiful face turned pale. She slowly closed her eyes as the space between her brows was filled with unspeakable agony. Your father, he's dead. It was she who had personally witnessed that man being pierced by thousands of arrows in front of her, and it was also she who had watched him lose his breath. He was dead. But she had dragged on until now, and had even forgotten about him. Yun Luofeng's heart shrank slightly. She looked at Bai Ling's curled-up body and slowly walked forward. She used her arms to gently embrace the fragile woman in front of her. Father is still alive. Bai Ling was taken aback. She raised her head in surprise and looked at Yun Luofeng's evil face. He's still alive, it's just that he can't appear in front of us. He's definitely somewhere else, moving at the same pace as us. When a person dies, as long as his soul is not destroyed, then he is not truly dead. Chapter 1978. Otherwise, she would not have been able to come to this continent from China. Of course, it was because of little Mo that she could transmigrate. Yun Yang would not have such luck, but now, she could only comfort Bai Ling with such words. Otherwise, she did not know if Bai Ling would be able to survive. Fenger, you don't have to comfort me. Bai Ling stood up from the ground again. If I hadn't seen you, I would have followed your father. I wouldn't have let him be alone. But in this life, I have owed you too much. How could I leave you behind again? Bai Ling chuckled bitterly. Your father and I were fated, but not fated. When she had just recovered her memory, Bai Ling could not bear the pain of her loved ones leaving. Now, however, she had calmed down. No matter how much pain she felt, she had to persevere for her family members who were still alive. Right, Fenger, why are you here? Bai Ling finally thought of this and could not help but ask. I'm here to find a friend. Yun Luofeng curled the corners of her lips. I didn't expect to find you. Finding Bai Ling was just a pleasant surprise for her. Yun Luofeng had never thought that Bai Ling would still be alive. Fenger, you can cultivate now? Bai Ling asked in disbelief as she felt the faint fluctuation of spiritual qi in Yun Luofeng's body. Under Bai Ling's expectant gaze, Yun Luofeng nodded slightly. Hearing the other's affirmative answer, Bai Ling felt a flash of joy in her heart. It's great that you can cultivate. Right, how is the enemy who hurt your second uncle now? As she spoke, Bai Ling's gaze turned cold. Her white robes fluttered like a fairy, but her murderous intent was clear. He's dead. Yun Luofeng shrugged. Also, second uncle has a second aunt now, and I have a cute cousin sister. It's a pity that you couldn't go back to attend their wedding ceremony. Yun Luofeng's words made Bai Ling feel happy. Qingye is married. Of course, that's great. It looks like I'll have to give my niece a gift when the time comes. As for not being able to attend the wedding, that's fine. As long as I can attend your wedding ceremony in the future, that's enough. Hearing this, Yun Luofeng raised her eyebrows. She was embarrassed to tell Bai Ling that she was also married. Little tiger, Bai Ling's face suddenly turned serious as she called out softly. The baby tiger howled and lay down beside Bai Ling's feet, as obedient as a kitten. Fenger, this little tiger is the beast king of Nemesis Forest. I was lucky enough to save it and it has been following me ever since. From now on, I will hand over this little tiger and all the spiritual beasts of Nemesis Forest to you. You will be their only master. Although Bai Ling was very gentle with Yun Luofeng, when she gave orders to the little tiger, her beautiful face was full of seriousness. Xiao Hu, if you want to repay me for saving your life, then use your lives to protect Feng, or for me from now on. From now on, your master will only be her. Do you understand? The little tiger growled and used its tongue to lick the back of Yun Luofeng's hand as if to express its goodwill. Bai Ling's heart slowly heaved a sigh of relief. Even though you can cultivate now, your mother is still worried about you. Now, with these spiritual beasts of Nemesis Forest, they will be able to protect you on the cloudy continent. Chapter 1979. The blood-colored striped tiger was already at the ultimate god realm. Very few ultimate gods could defeat it. With its protection, Yun Luofeng would not be in any danger. That way, even if the poison were to break out, he would not have to worry about his daughter's life. Suddenly, a sneering voice came from the void. Bai Ling's expression changed when she heard the voice. I was curious why someone looks so much like you. Now it seems like there's a reason why you two look so alike. The man slowly descended from the void with his hands behind his back. His eerie eyes stared coldly at Bai Ling, who was in front of him. Junior sister, no wonder you were unmoved when I tried to be nice to you. It turns out that you're already married. The man slowly walked towards Bai Ling. He raised his chin slightly and said arrogantly, "Why can that man have you but I can't? I thought you were pure and turned a blind eye to my advances. It turns out that you're just a slut who has slept with someone else." Whoosh! Suddenly, a ray of light came toward the man's face. He dodged sideways and the sword light hit the tree behind him with a loud bang. In an instant, the entire tree trunk was flattened. Yun Luofeng was dressed in white and was as beautiful as snow. Compared to Bai Ling's ethereal aura, this woman had an extra evil aura. She looked proud as if she was looking down on the world. My mother doesn't like you because you're not as good as my father. The man's eyes narrowed as his killing intent was revealed. I'm not as good as that man. What a joke. I'm the leader of the Freedom Alliance. In the future, the entire Fengyun continent will belong to me. You're saying that I'm not as good as a dead man. Oh. Yun Luofeng raised her brows slightly. Sorry, I happen to be interested in the Fengyun continent. So. I'm afraid you won't be the ruler of the Fengyun continent. In an instant, the man's aura surged as he stared coldly at Yun Luofeng with stormy eyes. Little girl, do you want to die? A gust of wind blew from his body, and the entire sky became gloomy as dark clouds covered the blue sky. Feng watch out. Bai Ling hurriedly blocked Yun Luofeng as she looked at the man in front of her fearlessly. What's the use of threatening a child? You can't even beat me, yet you dare to compete with my husband. The man laughed out loud, and a gust of wind blew, causing the sky to change color. I can't beat you. Junior sister, if that's the case, why don't we have a competition right now? Bai Ling's lips curled into a sarcastic smile. If you can really defeat me, why did you poison me? Wait till I get rid of the poison, I will make you kneel and beg for mercy. Detoxification. The man disdainfully smiled. In this life, she cannot cure the poison. Of course, the man also knew that Bai Ling was just trying to provoke him into leaving this place. Unfortunately, he would not fall for her trick. Bai Ling, if you want your daughter to live, then come with me. Otherwise, I can crush her to death with one hand. The man proudly raised his chin and said expressionlessly. Bai Ling's expression darkened once again. She gave little tiger a look, indicating that she should quickly leave with Yun Luofeng. If he was the only one here, maybe little tiger could still fight. However, Bai Ling narrowed her eyes when she saw the few people descending from the void with the man. Chapter 1980. Ultimate Gods. These people were all ultimate gods. Little Tiger let out a mournful cry and looked at Bai Ling with a pair of reluctant eyes. Bai Ling's expression was very resolute. Her eyes were as clear as water, but she stared coldly at the man. You used the forbidden technique that Master left behind. Don't you know the consequences of this forbidden technique? Although anyone who was cast with the forbidden technique could break through to the ultimate god realm in a short time, they will die after 3 years. It was also because of this that Master did not create a large number of ultimate god experts to avoid harming the innocent. Her words were also meant for the group of people behind the man to hear. Who knew that those people's expressions did not change as if they did not hear Bai Ling's words? Bai Ling's heart sank little by little. Little Tiger finally made up his mind. He walked to Yun Luofeng's side and growled in a low voice. However, Yun Luofeng walked past Little Tiger and slowly walked toward Bai Ling. You go back and watch. Bai Ling was startled and looked a little anxious. Feng what are you doing? Leave it to me. Yun Luofeng's expression was very firm. I won't allow anyone to insult you. Her voice was like a hammer that smashed hard on Bai Ling's heart. I won't allow anyone to insult you. Even if I know I'm not good enough, I will never back down. Feng don't mess around. Bai Ling quickly regained her senses and anxiously pressed on the woman's shoulder. Leave with Little Tiger. With Little Tiger's strength, he will send you out safely. It's not too late for you to avenge your mother in the future. Yun Luofeng's hand slowly landed on the back of Bai Ling's hand and gently pushed it away. I've said that I won't allow anyone to insult you. Just like back then, it was clearly another country's emperor who was muddle-headed and tyrannical and took a fancy to Bai Ling, but the people slandered Bai Ling as a femme fatale. In order to suppress those voices, she did not hesitate to go on a killing spree and turned the entire imperial city into a river of blood. She would not allow anyone to insult her. Feng Bai Ling's heart tightened when she saw Yun Luofeng walking toward the man. She wanted to chase after him, but she staggered and almost fell to the ground. A sense of helplessness invaded her heart. If it wasn't for this damned poison, she wouldn't be in such a passive position. Girl, the man lowered his head to look at Yun Luofeng and sneered, I won't be merciful to you on account of your mother. I also won't let you go just because you're my mother's senior brother, Yun Luofeng retorted. Instantly, the man's eyes darkened and there was a sinister glint in his eyes. Humph. I want to see how you won't let me off. Finished saying these words, he already strode forward towards Yun Luofeng. The group of ultimate gods behind him were also tempted but were stopped by the man's stern voice. It's just a little girl. I alone am enough to deal with her. I don't want others to say that I'm bullying her with numbers. At this moment, the man did not hold back at all. His aura was like a hurricane, bringing with it an oppressive aura. Under the strong wind, the woman's expression did not change. Her black eyes were calm, and her body was wrapped in a layer of dragon-scale armor. The snow-white armor reflected a cold light under the strong wind. Looking at Yun Luofeng, Bai Ling opened her mouth in shock. Her eyes were filled with shock. Divine Realm. His daughter had already reached the Divine Realm at such a young age. Divine Realm was one thing, but there were 10 ultimate gods in front of her. Chapter 1981. How could a tiny pearl dare to compete with the sun and moon? The man looked at Yun Luofeng with disdain as his lips curled into a sarcastic smile. How could a mere Divine Realm expert defeat him? Although this girl's innate talent was very strong, to a sun and moon like him, it was impossible for a tiny pearl to compete with him. Whoosh! Yun Luofeng raised her hand and a sword light flew toward the man's head. The man dodged to the side as the disdain on his face deepened and his eyes were filled with disdain. A Divine Realm expert is only a Divine Realm expert. How could he defeat me? After saying that, the man had already made his move. He was very fast like a gust of wind and appeared in front of Yun Luofeng in the blink of an eye. His palm was wrapped in a layer of power as it struck toward Yun Luofeng with a loud bang. Bang! Yun Luofeng did not dodge at the crucial moment but met the man's attack head-on. Bai Ling's heart skipped a beat and she was so nervous that she could not breathe. She clenched her fists tightly as her body trembled. At the same time, the disdain in the man's eyes deepened. If Yun Luofeng had dodged, she might not have been defeated so quickly. However, this woman overestimated her strength and wanted to fight him head-on. How could a Divine Realm expert's strength compare to an ultimate god's? However, the man's smile soon froze. With a loud bang, a powerful force spread out from the two of them, flattening the entire mountainous region. It was as if it had been struck by lightning, and the entire ground had sunk in. Yun Luofeng shook her numb arm as she felt a fishy taste in her throat. She almost spat out a mouthful of blood but managed to suppress it. There was indeed a huge gap between ultimate gods. This man was different from Lang Xinyue whom she had met earlier. Perhaps even 10 Lang Sinews would not be a match for this man. At this moment, the shock in the man's eyes was undisguised. In his imagination, that woman's arm would have been broken even if she did not die from the blow. He had used almost all of his strength. However, she was now standing in front of him unscathed. Could it be because of the dragon-scale armor? The man gently narrowed his eyes and finally realized that something was amiss. Perhaps the dragon-scale armor had neutralized most of his power, allowing this woman to remain unscathed. Little girl, looks like I've underestimated you. I didn't expect you to have such a treasure on you. In other words, the reason Lin Yun was able to block his attack wasn't because he was strong, but because of the dragon-scale armor. Since that's the case, I can only end this quickly. All of you, go and cripple this girl for me. The man snorted. This woman was still useful to him, so he naturally couldn't kill her. Bai Ling had already come back to her senses. Looking at the man's shameless face, she smiled coldly. What, is it not enough for you to bully the young? Now you want to bully the young with numbers? Is this how Master taught you to bully the weak? The man sneered, so what if I'm bullying you with numbers? Who asked the Freedom Alliance to have so many people? Bai Ling, if you listen to me, I'll let her go. This time, before Bai Ling could speak, Yun Luofeng's evil voice rang out again. I'm indeed no match for you in terms of numbers, but one of my people can fight against 10 of you. Yun Luofeng glanced at the man and said faintly, Ji Zhoutian, how long are you going to watch the show? Chapter 1982. Just as Yun Luofeng finished speaking, an arrogant laugh pierced the sky and caused the entire void to tremble. Little Feng, I didn't expect you to discover me even though I hid so well. In the sky, a streak of bright red gradually appeared. The man was like a devastatingly beautiful evildoer, but as a man, he was so beautiful that even women would feel ashamed of themselves. His red clothes accentuated his peerless elegance. His chest was half open, and his snow-white skin was captivating. His lips curled into an arrogant smile, and his almond-shaped eyes looked down at the people opposite Yun Luofeng. Since you're here, why didn't you come out just now? Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes slightly, and an evil glint flashed across his eyes. She came to the Wind Cloud continent to find Ji Zhoutian, but this man was still hiding from her. Didn't this guy say he wanted to fight you one-on-one? Ji Zhoutian pointed at the man opposite him with his chin. I just wanted to observe his abilities. Moreover, I don't think he can defeat you. But... His lips curled up slightly. I didn't expect him to be so shameless. Since he can't defeat you, he decided to bully you with numbers. But just as I wanted to help you, you discovered me. Yun Luofeng glanced at Ji Zhoutian. How many can you fight? I'll leave this man to you. I can help you deal with the others. Alright, you and Little Tiger handle these people. I'll deal with this man from the Freedom Alliance myself. Yun Luofeng's expression became serious again, and his voice was filled with evil. Little Tiger howled and stared at the Freedom Alliance members like a tiger watching its prey. Bai Ling did not know if it was an illusion, but she felt that this evildoer in red was looking at her daughter differently. However, it was normal for her daughter to be admired by men since she was so outstanding. Bai Ling's expression was filled with pride. This was her daughter, and also the pride of her life. You want to deal with so many people with just the two of you. The man narrowed his eyes slightly, and a look of disdain flashed across his eyes. I'm afraid that's too whimsical. He would teach them how to be human and let them understand that they should never boast. Otherwise, they would be slapping themselves in the face. Yun Luofeng looked at the man calmly. Yun Xiao must have already sensed the commotion caused by his battle with this man. Right now, he must be rushing over. She had to stall for time before he arrived. Ji Zhoutian stood in front of Yun Luofeng. At the same time, the group of ultimate gods behind the man made their move. The blood-colored striped tiger roared and rushed toward one of the ultimate gods. It opened its bloody mouth and bit at that ultimate god. However, that ultimate god dodged the tiger's attack by turning his body sideways. Little Tiger was not discouraged and charged at the ultimate god again. Yun Luofeng released Yun Yi. Although Yun Yi was only a heavenly god, he could still handle a few attacks from an ultimate god with his strength. As for the other spirit beasts, there was still a gap in strength. In order to avoid unnecessary casualties, Yun Luofeng did not let them fight. Feng, be careful. Seeing that the man had taken the initiative to attack, Bai Ling's heart tensed up once again as she hurriedly called out. Yun Luofeng glanced at the man in front of him. The dragon scale armor on his body shone brilliantly, and he once again met the man's attack. Chapter 1983. The man's lips curled into a cold smile. He suddenly exerted force in his palm and struck the dragon scale armor on Yun Luofeng's body. His aura surged forth like a swarm of bees, and every move was aimed at the vital points. In the beginning, he had thought that Yun Luofeng was Bai Ling's substitute. However, he had never expected that this woman was actually Bai Ling's daughter. Since that was the case, he would make Bai Ling suffer. This was the price Bai Ling had to pay for not accepting him. But, seeing that Yun Luofeng had dodged his attacks time and time again, the man's expression was somewhat gloomy. A layer of frost appeared between his brows. Bai Ling's daughter was actually so powerful. Fortunately, he discovered it early. Otherwise, if she were to continue to grow, his Freedom Alliance would definitely be destroyed in her hands. The most important thing now was to kill her before she fully matured. Thinking of this, the man's eyes were filled with murderous intent. His attacks on Yun Luofeng became faster and more ferocious, like a torrential downpour. Yun Luofeng hid his emotions with a calm expression. There was a time limit to the dragon scale armor. She had summoned it once before, and even though she could summon it twice within a short period of time because she had broken through to the heavenly god stage, once the dragon scale armor disappeared, she would be in a passive situation. At that time, she would not be able to resist this man. Just as Yun Luofeng was muttering to herself, the man once again appeared in front of her. A sharp blade appeared in his hand, and he swung it at Yun Luofeng's head. Yun Luofeng tilted his head. The sharp blade passed through his hair, and a strand of hair was cut off, gradually falling from the sky. Little girl, even though you're beautiful, you're still too young. You don't have the same taste as your mother. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind taking both of you, ha ha ha. The man burst into laughter. His arrogant voice echoed throughout the void. Then I'm afraid you won't be alive to enjoy it. Yun Luofeng looked at the man coldly and said in a domineering tone. Tisk, as far as I know, your dragon scale armor seems to have a time limit. When the time comes, I'm afraid you'll become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Really? Yun Luofeng's lips curled up slightly. Her dragon scale battle armor indeed had a time limit, but Yun Shao would be rushing over soon. She just had to hold on until Yun Shao arrived. Stop. Seeing that the man was about to strike again, Bai Ling finally could not hold it in any longer and shouted angrily, Olay, the person you've been looking for has always been me, it has nothing to do with my daughter. If you dare to touch a single hair on her, even if I have to break my bones, I will make you lose an arm or a leg. After all, as Yun Luofeng's mother, how could Bai Ling not know that her daughter had always been putting up a strong front? If she didn't stand up for her daughter, how could she be a mother? The man whom Bai Ling addressed as Lei smiled and looked at Bai Ling condescendingly. Bai Ling, have you finally decided to marry me? Anyway, you're not pure. I don't despise you, so you should be grateful. His face was full of arrogance. Don't tell me I'm not as good as your adulterer. Bai Ling sneered, even 10,000 of you can't compare to one of her. I'm not begging you, I'm warning you. You should believe in my strength. If I die a horrible death, you won't feel good either. Lei's face gradually turned gloomy, like a storm that made people filled with horror. Chapter 1984. This woman was really refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Did she really want to force him to attack her? I've said that I can handle this. Yun Luofeng sighed helplessly as he looked at Bai Ling who had stepped forward. You're my daughter. I can't just leave you alone. Bai Ling turned to look at Lei with a cold expression on her beautiful face. You've suffered too much over the years and suffered too many injuries. Now that we've finally reunited, how can I allow anyone to hurt you again? Although Bai Ling did not know how Yun Luofeng had survived all those years, she must have suffered unimaginable pain for her to have such strength at such a young age. She felt a stabbing pain whenever she thought of what her daughter had gone through all those years. Howl! Little Tiger Lord let out a heroic roar in response to Bai Ling and swung his claws at an ultimate god in front of him. Ji Jiutian turned to look at Yun Luofeng with an evil smile on his enchanting face. He quickly turned back and continued to deal with the enemies in front of him. Humph! Lei snorted. Yun Huqing, you've forced me to do this. Don't blame me for not considering our past friendship. As soon as the words left his mouth, a massive amount of power gathered in Lei's palm. Heaven and earth seemed to change color. Boundless power, like a sharp sword, arrived in front of Yun Luofeng in the blink of an eye. This time, he didn't plan on hiding his strength. Instead, he unleashed all of his power through this attack. Feng be careful. Bai Ling turned pale with fright. Her body flashed and appeared in front of Yun Luofeng, wanting to block this attack for her. However, Yun Luofeng suddenly used his hand to push Bai Ling's body away. Bai Ling turned around in shock and forgot that unforgettable scene for the rest of her life. The unparalleled force swallowed Yun Luofeng as the sky was filled with dark clouds. It was so gloomy that it made one's heart feel depressed. The woman's clothes were whiter than snow as she stood in the void. Her snow-white dress was spotless and extremely beautiful. Yang was stunned. His full-force attack had no effect on that woman. No, seeing Yun Luofeng's current situation, Yang's eyes narrowed. Looks like your dragon scale armor is indeed a good item. Unfortunately, no matter how strong it is, it can't withstand such a strong force. Hence, under my attack, your dragon scale armor can't withstand it. Indeed, Yun Luofeng used his dragon scale armor to block this attack. Unfortunately, the dragon scale armor couldn't withstand this kind of power and dissipated before its duration was up. But, feeling the approaching aura, Yun Luofeng's lips curled up into a smile. His black eyes remained as calm as water without any ripples. Feng At that moment, Bai Ling's heart almost stopped beating. She quickly walked in front of Yun Luofeng and hurriedly hugged her. Yun Luofeng could even feel Witty's trembling body. You're fine, that's great. You're fine. She did not dare to imagine how much damage Yun Luofeng would have suffered if he did not have the protection of the dragon scale armor. She couldn't imagine how she would live her life after losing the daughter she had finally reunited with. Fortunately, she was safe and sound. Bai Ling's voice trembled slightly. Two clear streams of tears flowed from her eyes and her eyes were filled with the joy of regaining what she had lost. Chapter 1985. Lei stared at Bai Ling, who was hugging Yun Luofeng tightly, and the murderous intent in his eyes intensified. She's just a bastard child. Is she worth treasuring like this? Bai Ling clenched her fists as anger surged in her chest. She turned around and looked at Lei coldly. She's my legitimate daughter. I'm also the official wife of the Yun family. What do you mean by a bastard child? My good junior sister, don't forget that master is already dead. I'm your senior brother. I didn't agree to you marrying that man, so this girl is just a bastard child. Bai Ling smiled, and it was a mocking smile. I've only been apprenticed to master for less than 10 years. I've been married to Brother Yang for almost 30 years. Do you think you have the right to decide my marriage? If not for the events of the past few years, Bai Ling would have always treated this senior brother as family. However, at that time, Master was still alive. Both her senior brother and senior sister had treated her extremely well. However, once Master died, these people's wild ambitions were revealed. Furthermore, she did not even know that Lei was such a shameless villain. Yun Luofeng did not stop the two of them. To her, it was better for Lei to buy time so that she would not have to think of other ways to delay things. Yun Wuqing, I'm your senior brother. You must listen to me. Lei was furious. He raised his hand and tried to grab Bai Ling's arm. This bastard child will either serve me like you or die. Your choice. Before Lei's hand could touch Bai Ling, she flung it away in disgust. Her eyes were filled with undisguised disgust. Get lost. Don't touch me with your disgusting, dirty hands. Furthermore, my daughter will not die, nor will she serve you. Lei was completely enraged. Of course, he could not kill Bai Ling. He could only look at Yun Luofeng again. You no longer have the protection of the dragon scale armor. Let's see how you fight me this time. Go to hell. As soon as he finished speaking, Lei charged towards Yun Luofeng at lightning speed. His eyes were filled with murderous intent and his lips curled into a cold smile. Yun Luofeng looked at the incoming attack, and her expression gradually turned serious. This time, she didn't dare to be careless and meet her opponent head-on. She dodged to the side, clearly dodging the attack. But very quickly, Lei's sharp sword was right in front of her eyes. The close distance made it impossible for her to dodge. Bai Ling's heart stopped beating again. She charged at Yun Luofeng like a madman. Unfortunately, she was a little far away and couldn't reach Lei, who was right in front of her. By the time she reached Yun Luofeng's side, it was already too late. At this moment, in the air, a cold aura, like a rope, strangled his neck, causing him to stop breathing. When he came back to his senses, he discovered that a man in black robes had landed in front of him, shielding Yun Luofeng in his arms. The man's expression was cold, and he raised his hand to create a murderous aura. That aura forced Lei to take a few steps back, and his expression finally turned serious. Who are you? Yun Shao curled his lips and his expression was cold. You're delusional enough to touch my woman, yet you're asking me who I am. Bai Ling was still wondering who this man who had descended from the sky was when she suddenly heard his words. It was as if she had been struck by lightning, and she was dumbfounded on the spot. His woman. Could it be that Feng He already had a husband? Bai Ling's expression was a little gloomy. How much had she missed out on all these years? Lei's expression changed. He could feel the powerful aura from this man's body, and his mood instantly became much more serious. Chapter 1986. Kid, are you sure you want to be a busybody? There are so many women in this world. Don't throw your life away for a woman. Lei was unwilling to lose his momentum. Until now, he did not forget to warn Yun Shao. As long as that man knew what was good for him, he would not be an enemy of the Freedom Alliance. Unfortunately, Yun Shao had always been unwilling to say a word. He believed that it was better to fight than to talk. Therefore, Lei did not get a reply from him. Instead, that eagle-like figure suddenly appeared in front of him. Lei's expression changed slightly as he faced the opponent's attack. In an instant, a numb feeling spread from his arm to his whole body, causing him to take a few steps back. He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. At that moment, Ji Jyotian had killed all the ultimate gods in front of him. He slowly walked toward Yun Xiao and slightly raised his chin. Do you need my help? Yun Xiao's voice was as cold as ever. No. Ji Jyotian smiled enchantingly as he descended from the void and stood in front of Yun Luofeng. With Yun Xiao's strength, Olay was no match for him. Soon, Yun Xiao's actions proved Ji Jyotian's words. Olay had almost exhausted his strength when he fought with Yun Luofeng previously. He was completely powerless at that moment. Of course, even if he had not fought with Yun Luofeng, he would not be a match for Yun Xiao. At this time, no one noticed that there was a slender figure hidden behind an ancient tree not far away. Mo Qianqing's eyes were glued to Yun Luofeng. When he saw the deep love in the woman's eyes, his heart felt like it was being pricked by needles. The pain was unbearable. Zhu Qian, you didn't love me in your past life. Are you still looking down on me in this life? He looked down to hide the pain in his eyes. I wanted to kill that man, but unfortunately, I can't kill him with my current strength. More importantly, I don't want you to hate me. I don't want you to hate me. That's all. I've made all the mistakes in the world and incurred your hatred. But now, what I'm most afraid of is seeing your eyes filled with hatred. If this man is really your choice, should I back out? For a moment, Mo Qianqing didn't know what kind of decision he should make. He was at a loss and helpless. In the end, after looking at Yun Luofeng, he turned and left. As long as he knew that she was safe, that was enough. Mo Qianqing bit his pink lips tightly. His handsome face was very pale and his eyes were filled with tears of reluctance. But in the end, he understood that no matter what he did, he could not dispel the hatred in her heart. She hated him. It could be seen from the time he wanted to kill Yun Xiao. Otherwise, she would not have left so many people by her side. She was only unwilling to leave him behind. Zhu Qian, if there's a next life, I hope I won't know you again. For him, he had waited for so many years, waiting until his heart was tired. Perhaps it was time for him to give up. In the sky, Olay was gradually losing his stamina and it was very difficult for him to deal with the attacks. Just as he could no longer hold on, Yun Xiao kicked him down from the sky and he landed in front of Bai Ling with a bang. He smashed a deep pit into the ground. Yun Xiao walked in front of Yun Luofeng, his pitch-black eyes filled with warmth. Feng, I've come late. Chapter 1987. You're not late, you're just in time. Yun Luofeng lowered his eyes and smiled faintly. Then, he pulled Yun Xiao towards Bai Ling. Mother, this is Yun Xiao. He has always been by my side for the past 10 years. He is also the lover that I can give my life to. Yun Xiao was stunned. He quickly regained his cool expression and nodded. Mother. Hearing Yun Luofeng's words, Bai Ling sized up Yun Xiao. Just like a mother-in-law looking at her son-in-law, the more she looked at him, the more she liked him. However, Bai Ling suddenly heard how Yun Xiao had addressed her and was instantly stunned. You're married. Yun Luofeng rubbed his nose. Not too long ago, we just got married. At this moment, Bai Ling felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She wanted to cry but had no tears. She had originally wanted to attend her daughter's wedding ceremony in the future. She never expected her daughter to tell her that they were already married. As a mother, the most tragic thing was not being able to see her daughter get married. Mother, how do we deal with this fellow? Yun Luofeng raised his brows and turned his gaze towards the man who was unable to climb out of the deep pit. Bai Ling frowned and muttered, kill him. If Olay had only been rude to her, it would have been fine. She could not tolerate him wanting to hurt her precious daughter. Yun Xiao, go and kill him. I don't want to dirty my hands. Yun Luofeng yawned lazily. His expression was somewhat lazy. Things had come to an end here. All right. Yun Xiao spoke concisely and slowly walked towards Olay. In the deep pit, Olay looked at the cold face approaching him and panic appeared on his face. No, I don't want to die. Please let me go, I beg you. Ah! Suddenly, Yun Xiao's hand waved. Streaks of swift and fierce sword beams rushed down, chopping onto her body. In just a moment, not a single part of Olay's skin was left intact. His eyes were wide open as if he had died with a remaining grievance. Bai Ling looked at Olay, who had been buried in a pool of blood, and felt a little sad. This man had died just like that. His death was extremely tragic. However, Bai Ling did not feel any sympathy. Olay had brought this upon himself. Who could he blame? Master, Little Tiger's ears suddenly twitched and he said, the spiritual beasts in Nemesis Forest just sent a message saying that the woman called Lang Xinyue has run away. Yun Xiao had only killed the Freedom Alliance's ultimate gods and was about to finish off Lang Xinyue when he heard a commotion coming from the depths of Nemesis Forest. He was worried about Yun Luofeng's safety and couldn't care less about Lang Xinyue. Who would have thought that this woman actually had the ability to escape? It doesn't matter. Bai Ling's tightly furrowed brows relaxed. She has nowhere else to go except the Freedom Alliance. I'll pay a visit to the Freedom Alliance myself sooner or later. After speaking, Bai Ling looked at Little Tiger. Also, your master is Fenger. From now on, she will be your only master. Oh whoa. The baby tiger responded obediently and laid down on the ground. Yun Xiao, let's gather with the others first. After Yun Luofeng had spoken, he walked to Bai Ling's side and held her arm. Mother, come with me during this period of time. I still need to continue curing you of the poison. Bai Ling was stunned. You mean, this poison of mine can be cured? Yun Luofeng smiled faintly. Compared to my strength, I'm more proud of my medical skills. Therefore, I have 100% confidence in curing your poison. It's just that the steps are a little more troublesome. Chapter 1988. Bai Ling felt a little dizzy. She remembered that when she had just left, her daughter did not know anything. How was it that in just 20 years, she had become so powerful and had such extraordinary medical skills? What had she gone through in the past 20 years? Bai Ling's heart throbbed in pain once again. She decided that she would use the rest of her life to make it up to her. Not too far away, Chi Su raised his head in anticipation. After a long while, he finally saw Bai Ling, who had followed Yun Luofeng over. In that instant, hot tears welled up in his eyes. Master! It had been more than 3 years. Who knew how he had spent the past 3 years? In this world, no one had treated him better than his master. His master was also a family member that he did not want to lose in this lifetime. Bai Ling saw Chi Su at first glance and a gentle smile appeared on her face. She held Yun Luofeng's hand and slowly walked towards Chi Su. Feng has already told me everything that has happened in the past 3 years on the way here. It's really been hard on you and Xiaoling. I never thought that the Qi family would be such ingrates. They had used the world that she had conquered to abuse her disciple. And they had even sold Xiaoling. Bai Ling had never expected that such a person would exist in this world. Master! Chi Su knelt down in front of Bai Ling and sobbed uncontrollably, "Your disciple has been unfilial. I have caused Master to suffer in Nemesis Forest all these years. If he had enough power to protect his family, Master would not have taken such a risk." Bai Ling knew that Qi Ling was taking all the blame for his disappearance for the past 3 years. She quickly raised her hand and helped him up. She said gently, "Suer, this is not your fault. Master had been framed and had no choice but to hide in this place." Chi Su did not speak. He secretly made up his mind that he would not let his master suffer any more harm in the future. Mu Xuexin looked at Yun Luofeng and Bai Ling's figures as they walked out at the same time. Her eyes were a little dazed as she realized that the two women looked like a pair of mother and daughter when they stood together. She was curious, "Aunt Yun, you and Miss Yun are—" "Oh, I forgot to tell you." Bai Ling held Yun Luofeng's hand, her face filled with pride. "This is my daughter, Yun Luofeng. My real name is not Yun Wuqing, it's Bai Ling. Yun is my husband's surname, that's why I can't forget it even after so many years. Furthermore, I named little Ling 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 because that's the only word I remember." Mu Xuexin widened her mouth in shock and hastily covered her mouth with her hands. No wonder she felt so close to Yun Luofeng, it was because she was Aunt Yun's daughter. Among the people present, the Purple Moon Kingdom's people were all dead, and the Golden Sun Kingdom's people also suffered a casualty. Only Qingli and his men were still alive. As for Qiyu from the kingdom of Tianqi, he had never appeared from the beginning to the end. It was unknown where he had gone. Of course, Qingli was no longer as arrogant as before. He was so frightened that he didn't dare to say a word and kept his head bowed. Yun Luofeng ignored him and walked over to Qiao Zixuan's corpse. He took the jade seal from the corpse's chest and put it away without hesitation. "Do you have any objections if I take this jade seal?" She raised her brows at Qingli and asked blandly. Qingli was so scared that his heart almost stopped beating. "No problem." What a joke. This woman did not even care about the supreme divinities. Would he dare to have an opinion? Wasn't this courting death? Chapter 1989. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Just at this moment, a rustling sound came from the side. When everyone turned their heads to look, they saw Qiyu leading a few people over. Only a few of the soldiers he had brought with him were left. The rest had died in Nemesis Forest. Qiyu clearly did not expect to meet Qi Ling and the others. When he saw the corpses all over the ground, he was startled. What exactly happened here? However, Qiyu quickly recovered his wits. A pair of disdainful eyes swept over Qi Ling. "Second brother, I see that you have not gained anything yet, right? Do you need me to help you?" I just got a jade seal not long ago. As long as I get another one, first place will definitely belong to me." He raised his chin and said arrogantly, "As for you, if you were not with the Golden Sun Nation's people, these outsiders would have taken your life." Qiyu did not recognize the experts of the Freedom Alliance. He had not even seen Wuzun of the Golden Sun Nation before. Therefore, he was certain that these people had accidentally intruded into Nemesis Forest and caused conflict with the 4 countries. It was Qingli who had led the Jinyang country's people to kill these outsiders, and Qi Ling was merely hiding behind the Jinyang country's back. Qingli looked at Qiyu with a strange gaze, as though he was looking at a fool. Qiyu did not notice the other party's strange expression. A cold smile hung on his lips as he looked down at Qi Ling. "You want to find the other jade seal?" After a long time, Qi Ling finally spoke. His voice was very cold, bone-chilling. Qiyu laughed mockingly. "Second brother, if you want to fight with me, you will definitely not win. In other words, the champion of this four-nation youth competition would definitely be him. I'm sorry, but I wanted to tell you that you don't have to look for the other jade seal. Aside from the one you found, the other jade seals have already been obtained by Miss Yun. Before the smile on the corner of Chi Yu's mouth could disappear, Chi Ling's cold voice suddenly fell into his ears and exploded in his mind, causing an obvious astonishment to appear on his face. Are you joking? I've only found one, and you guys can get 3. Chi Yu clearly did not believe Chi Ling's words. He thought that Chi Ling was trying to deceive him. Chi Yu was even more certain that Chi Ling was lying to him. He coldly laughed. I know, you want to deceive me. You want me to think that the Imperial Jade Seal is in your hands, so I give up. Chi Ling, do you think I'm a stupid pig? How could I fall for your trick? After saying this, he deliberately looked at Yun Luofeng. However, Yun Luofeng crossed his arms in front of his chest and leaned lazily against Yun Zhao's chest. His eyes were full of smiles and he had absolutely no intention of interfering in this matter. Chi Yu's eyes narrowed when he saw Yun Zhao. He remembered that the man known as the Ghost Emperor had killed Princess Qiao Yefeng of the Purple Moon Kingdom on the spot, and his aura was not weak when facing the cultivators of the Golden Sun Kingdom. But he wasn't from the Four Nations, so why would he appear in this place? The funny thing was that his gaze was initially on those corpses and he didn't notice Yun Zhao's existence. What he said is true. Qing Li's gaze revealed a complicated expression. They have already obtained the other 3 jade seals. If the person who said this was from the Drifting Wind Nation, perhaps Chi Yu would not have appeared. Chapter 1990. But now, the person who told him all this was Prince Qingli of Jinyang country. Chi Yu's heart was violently shaken and he could not help but take 2 steps back. He gently narrowed his eyes and stared at Chi Ling with murderous intent. This idiot actually managed to get his hands on 3 jade seals? No. Absolutely not. This world belonged to him, and he could not hand it over to anyone else. Prince Qingli, do you want to see Chi Ling unify the 4 kingdoms? Chi Yu's eyes flashed and he said darkly, I think that compared to Chi Ling, your Jin Sun country is more qualified. Even though Chi Ling has the help of Drifting Wind country, but, if we work together, we still have a chance of winning. Chi Yu was gambling. He was betting that Yun Zhao would not meddle in other people's business out of fear of the 2 countries. After all, no matter how strong that man was, he was probably only an ultimate god. However, the ultimate gods from both countries were enough to crush him. But Chi Yu seemed to have forgotten that if Yun Zhao dared to kill someone in front of the Emperor of Jinyang country, what else would he not dare to do? This time, without waiting for Chi Ling and the others to speak, Qingli rushed forward and slapped Chi Yu's face. He then angrily raised his leg and fiercely glared at Chi Yu's chest. Idiot, you're courting death. Don't drag this prince down with you. Qing shuddered from head to toe. Did he have the guts to join forces with him to deal with Chi Ling and the others? How many ultimate gods from the Freedom Alliance had died here? How many people in the Jinyang kingdom could they kill? Chi Yu clutched his chest as he stood up and roared angrily, Qingli, what are you doing? You want to unify the 4 countries, and I intend to help you, yet you still attack me? It's like a dog biting Lu Dongbin who doesn't know how to appreciate kindness. I'm beating up trash like you. Qingli raised his leg again and sent Chi Yu flying. The group of people behind Chi Yu wanted to attack, but they were knocked down by the soldiers of Jinyang country. At this moment, Qingli didn't care that the other party was a prince of another country. He directly ran in front of the other party and fiercely stomped on him. Trash, if you want to die, go find a place where no one is around. Why did you frame me? What do you mean I want to unify the four countries? Bullshit. I've never thought of it that way. What a joke. Even if he wanted to, he wouldn't dare to say it. Furthermore, after witnessing the strength of Yun Luofeng and Yun Shao, he had truly given up on such thoughts. This continent had always been like this, where the strong were revered. The other party's strength was too terrifying, so terrifying that he could not resist it. That was why Qingli was so furious when he heard Qi Yu's words. Qi Yu had long been beaten into a daze. He clearly did not know what had happened, and he was in so much pain that he could not even speak. I have no enmity with you, yet you want to harm me. If I don't beat you to death today, I'll change my surname to yours. In front of Yun Luofeng and Yun Shao, he had declared that he wanted to unify the four nations and even wanted them to join forces to deal with these people. How was this any different from deliberately framing him? Qi Yu shuddered at the thought of this. Of course, this trembling was not from anger, but from fear in his heart. He was afraid that Yun Luofeng would believe the words of this trash. Your Highness, if you continue to beat him, he'll probably be beaten to death. When the person behind Qingli saw Qi Yu gasping for air instead of inhaling, he kindly reminded him. Qi Yu was after all a prince of Tianqi country. No matter what, he could not beat him to death. Sure enough, Qingli retracted his leg and glared at Qi Yu fiercely. The next time you harm me, it won't be as simple as a beating. Chapter 1991. At this moment, Qi Yu's head was in a daze. He didn't understand why he framed Qingli, Miss Yun. Qingli quickly walked in front of Yun Luofeng and bowed like a dog. What did I do just now? Yun Luofeng smiled lightly. He's not wrong. In the beginning, didn't you want to join forces with the Prince of the Purple Moon Kingdom to deal with us? Cold sweat appeared on Qingli's forehead. He raised his hand to wipe it, but the more he wiped, the more his face became pale. He laughed twice. At that time, I was just listening to the Purple Moon Kingdom's bewitchment. I asked Miss Yun to forgive me and let me go. Yun Luofeng raised her eyes and glanced at him. Remember, the commander of the four countries is not me, it's Qi Ling. If you have any problems, just look for him. As for why she didn't let Qi Su be the commander of the four countries, it's because Qi Su still needs to help her run the elixir hole. He doesn't have that much energy to manage the four countries. Yes. Qingli smiled flatteringly, but in his heart, he didn't agree. Even if Miss Yun claims that the commander of the four countries is Qi Ling, anyone can see that Qi Ling has become her subordinate, so in the end, the person behind the scenes who controls the four countries is still him. That's right. Qingli seemed to remember something and said. Our Jinyang Kingdom's princess was summoned back, but when Wu Zun talked about Jinyang, I felt that his tone was different from usual. I suspect that something happened to Jinyang. Yun Luofeng's cold and beautiful face appeared in her mind. After a moment of silence, she said, Yun Shao, let's go back to Wind Cloud City immediately. In any case, before Princess Jinyang left, she reminded her that this trip to Sky Law is not simple and asked her to pay attention to safety. Just based on this advice, she would also help her at the crucial moment. Okay. Yun Shao raised her hand and held Yun Luofeng's waist, slowly rising into the void. In a few steps, they have already traveled 100 meters. Master, Qi Su looked at Bai Ling and asked. Princess Jinyang once reminded us to pay attention to safety. If she is really in danger, we should help, then let's go together. Bai Ling did not hesitate. Since the other party had helped her daughter and disciple, she had to help her when necessary. For a moment, no one bothered with Qi Yu, who was lying on the ground. As they all headed towards Wind Cloud City, within Wind Cloud City. Princess Jin Yang quickly walked into the luxurious mansion and saw Qing Fei Yang frowning and deep in thought. Imperial Father, why did you summon me back so urgently? Qing Fei Yang stared at Princess Jin Yang's face as a look of struggle flashed across his eyes. In the end, he sighed helplessly. Jin Yang, I accidentally received news that the Freedom Alliance has also gone to Nemesis Forest to kill the geniuses from the Four Nations. Hearing this, Princess Jin Yang's expression suddenly changed. Imperial Father, why didn't you say so earlier? This time, the geniuses are the princes and princesses of the Four Nations. If they die, it will be a great loss to the Four Nations. If you had told them, they might have been able to escape this calamity. Jin Yang, even if the Four Nations are united, they may not be able to go against the current Freedom Alliance. Imperial Father just doesn't want the Jin Yang nation to be destroyed. Qing Fei Yang's face was filled with helplessness. If I had known that this would happen, would not have chosen Nemesis Forest as the competition ground. Chapter 1992. Her words made it seem as if he did not know from the beginning. Unfortunately, Princess Jin Yang believed her words. Even if she could not bear it, how could she blame her imperial father? She was worried about the entire Jin Yang country. However, when she thought of Yun Luofeng in Nemesis Forest, she sighed softly in her heart. She hoped that Yun Luofeng would listen to her warning and safely escape from this calamity. Actually, Qing Fei Yang continued under Princess Jin Yang's helpless expression, I asked you to come back because of another matter. What is it? Jin Yang raised her head and looked at Qing Fei Yang. When she saw Qing Fei Yang's hesitant expression, she gradually felt uneasy. Your imperial mother. Qing Fei Yang's eyes were filled with grief. She was captured by the Freedom Alliance. With a loud bang, Princess Jin Yang's heart pounded violently. Her breathing became uncontrollable and her tightly clenched fists trembled slightly. What did you say? Mother has been captured. Why would the Freedom Alliance want to capture Mother? The leader of the Freedom Alliance has taken a fancy to you and wants you to be his woman. That's why he captured your imperial mother. Qing Fei Yang's voice trembled as he spoke. Jin Yang, imperial father has no other choice. You are the only one who can save your imperial mother. The empress was actually already dead. However, this was the only way to make her obediently go to the Freedom Alliance. Princess Jin Yang closed her eyes and clenched her fists tightly. What had she worked so hard for? It was so that one day, she would not need to become a tool for a political marriage. Instead, she could find someone to live with. Even if she had to work at sunrise and rest at sunset, she would be satisfied. However, in the end, even though she had become an imperial princess, she still could not change her fate. Imperial father, you agreed. Jin Yang opened her eyes and asked. Qing Fei Yang avoided her gaze. In order to save your imperial mother's life, I had no choice but to agree. I understand. Princess Jin Yang raised her cold face. I will marry him. As long as her imperial mother could live, she was willing to become a man's plaything. Jin Yang. Qing Fei Yang called out to her, his voice full of heartache. No matter what, this girl was the daughter that he had doted on for more than 20 years. How could he really bear to let her suffer? But he had no other choice, right? He couldn't afford to provoke the Freedom Alliance. I am tired. I want to rest. Princess Jin Yang did not look at Qing Fei Yang again. She calmly turned around and walked out the door. But the moment she turned around, she couldn't help but tear up. In this life, what she wanted was very simple. It was enough for him to have a lover who understood him. However, as a princess of the royal family, this request became very difficult. Princess Jean Yang walked to her room in the relay station. She had just stepped in and closed the door. The moment she turned around, a figure suddenly appeared behind her. She was startled. Just as she was about to cry out in alarm, she saw the person in front of her kneel down in front of her. "Princess, you must avenge the Empress." "Xiao Ju, why are you in my room?" Jean Yang frowned and asked. "Also, what do you mean by asking me to avenge my imperial mother?" "Your Highness, these past few days, this servant has been wanting to go out and find you. Unfortunately, the people at the city gates refused to let this servant out. His Majesty seemed to have sensed something and wanted to lock this servant up. This servant wanted to find a secret room in your room, so I secretly hid here." Chapter 1993. The palace maid's face was covered in tears and her expression was filled with grief. "What do you mean? Why did Imperial Father lock you up?" Jean Yang was confused and did not understand what she meant. "Your Highness, Her Highness the Empress is dead." Boom! The palace maid's words were like a bolt from the blue. Jean Yang's body trembled a few times. She supported herself against the wall and barely supported herself. "What nonsense are you talking about? Imperial Mother was captured by the Freedom Alliance. Why do you say she's dead? That's impossible. Imperial Mother can't be dead and Imperial Father can't lie to me. Princess, this servant saw it with my own eyes. His Majesty and Wuzuan planned to hand you over to the Freedom Alliance's Alliance Master. This matter was overheard by the Empress, so Wuzuan killed the Empress. Moreover, he discussed with His Majesty that this matter should be concealed and purposely made you think that the Empress had been captured by the Freedom Alliance." The palace maid said all the words in one breath. Her voice trembled uncontrollably. Jean Yang leaned against the wall. Her face was covered in tears and her lips were pale. "Xiao Ju, tell me that you're lying to me." She said that she did not believe it, but in reality, she knew that Xiao Ju had no reason to lie to her. Did that mean that Imperial Father was lying to her? The more Qing Feiyang thought about it, the more worried he felt about Jean Yang. He wanted to visit her and have a good talk with her. He had to consider the bigger picture. But, he had just pushed the door open and walked in when he saw the palace maid who had disappeared for the past few days kneeling in front of Jean Yang. Jean Yang's face was covered in tears and her eyes were filled with hatred. His heart thumped when he saw this. It seemed that his guess was right. This palace maid really knew everything. However, he never thought that she would be hiding in Jean Yang's room. No, he had ordered people to search all the rooms but hadn't found Xiao Ju. Where was she hiding? Imperial Father. Jean Yang turned her head and looked at Qing Feiyang with sorrowful eyes. "Why did you kill Imperial Mother?" "Why?" Qing Feiyang closed his eyes slightly. After a long while, he opened them again. "I didn't kill your Imperial Mother." "Does that mean that Empress Mother is really dead?" Jean Yang's body staggered a few times, and she almost collapsed to the ground. Her face was filled with despair and hatred. "I know it wasn't you, it was Wuzuan. But, why did you help Wuzuan lie to me? Why didn't you tell me the truth? Why?" Her voice was hysterical, and her eyes gradually became bloodshot. Her originally cold eyes were now filled with hatred and anger, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. She did not believe that her Imperial Father, who was so warm to her Imperial Mother and loved her so dearly, would be an accomplice in the murder of his wife. Yes, he was an accomplice. Otherwise, he wouldn't have helped Wuzuan hide this matter. Jinyang, I am the emperor. There are many things that I am helpless about. Qing Feiyang's heart ached. But what could he do? For the sake of Jinyang country, he could only abandon his wife and daughter. Jinyang laughed miserably. What a good excuse. You're just looking for an excuse for your ambition. If you want to become the strongest in the 4 countries, I will work hard to cultivate and break through. If you want to unify the 4 countries, I will definitely be number 1 this time. But what about you? You killed my imperial mother and tricked me into marrying the leader of the Freedom Alliance. Chapter 1994. Jinyang couldn't believe that his father, who had always doted on and protected her, had done such a thing. However, no matter how much his father doted on his wife and daughter, he wouldn't hesitate to abandon his wife and daughter once there was a conflict between his status and that of his wife and daughter. Princess. The palace maid stood up from the ground and glared at Qing Feiyang angrily. This servant and the Empress also heard that His Majesty and the Freedom Alliance have reached an agreement. They will lure the geniuses of the 4 nations to Nemesis Forest, and the Freedom Alliance will help His Majesty increase his strength. Wu Zun has also gone to Nemesis Forest to help the Freedom Alliance kill the geniuses of the 4 nations. Shut up. Qing Feiyang flew into a rage when he heard this. He slapped the palace maid's chest, and the palace maid's body flew out instantly. She spat out a steady stream of blood. Xiao Ju. Jinyang quickly ran to the palace maid's side and helped her up. How are you? Princess, this servant's life was saved by the Empress, and you treated this servant very well. This servant should have followed the Empress after she died, but this servant was afraid that you would be deceived, so this servant stayed behind. The palace maid's voice was very weak. Now, this servant can go and serve the Empress again. Impudent. Qing Feiyang shouted angrily. If it weren't for this lowly girl, Jinyang wouldn't have found out about this so quickly. At that time, he vented all his anger on the palace maid. You are a palace maid of the Jinyang country. How dare you disobey me? You deserve to die. The funny thing was that this palace maid didn't care about her life anymore. Why would she listen to Qing Feiyang's threats? Jinyang sensed the palace maid's increasingly weak breathing. He gently placed her on the ground and glared at Qing Feiyang with eyes full of hatred. So you were the one who lured the Freedom Alliance over. You killed so many geniuses of the 4 nations for your own selfish reasons. And even became the Freedom Alliance's lackey. Jinyang's chest heaved. Qing Feiyang, I'm telling you, I will never marry the Freedom Alliance. Dream on. Jinyang was so angry that he called Qing Feiyang by his name. The rage in his eyes intensified. Bang! At that moment, the room's door was slammed open. Qing Feiyang frowned and turned his head to look. He saw a figure in ragged clothes quickly walking in. It was a beautiful woman. She looked like she had just experienced a great battle and was in an extremely sorry state. Miss Lang. Qing Feiyang was stunned. This Lang Xinyue was the woman who had accompanied the Freedom Alliance's alliance master when he first came here. How did she end up in such a sorry state? Furthermore, why did he come to Wind Cloud City at this time? Lang Xinyue lightly frowned. I will take Princess Jinyang away. Did the guild master send you to pick up Jinyang? Qing Feiyang's voice was clearly respectful. We've been waiting here for a long time. You can leave with Jinyang now. Lang Xinyue sneered, not answering Qing Feiyang's question. If it weren't for the fact that Jinyang was still useful to her, she wouldn't have bothered to take him away. I won't go, Jinyang said coldly as he suppressed the surging killing intent in his heart. Without the Empress Mother as leverage, did he think they could oppress her? Jin Yang, Imperial Father is begging you. Qing Feiyang's face was full of pleading. All these years, Imperial Father has always doted on you like the apple of his eye. Could it be that you can bear to see Imperial Father being oppressed by the Freedom Alliance? Furthermore, don't tell me you don't know what it means to be a matchmaker. Chapter 1995. The order of her parents and the words of the matchmaker? Could it be that she could not escape her fate after all? Jin Yang felt very indignant. She clenched her fists and raised her stubborn little face. What if I don't agree? Jin Yang, Imperial Father has raised you up and given you more love than anyone else. Even if it's for the sake of Imperial Father's kindness in raising you, you should still leave with Miss Lang. Jin Yang's body trembled uncontrollably. Her heart was filled with despair and pain. She would rather be the daughter of an ordinary family than become a tool for a political marriage, I understand. After a long time, she loosened her tightly clenched fists. Her beautiful yet pale face was filled with coldness and arrogance. If you want me to marry the leader of the Freedom Alliance, then I'll marry him. It'll be my repayment for your kindness in raising me. From now on, our father-daughter relationship will be like this. She grabbed a strand of hair and raised the long sword in her hand to cut it. The strands of hair fluttered down, just like her resolute heart. Severing all ties. She said these 4 words resolutely and decisively, causing Qing Feiyang's heart to ache fiercely. He knew that with this decision, he had completely lost the daughter he was so proud of. Jin Yang, don't blame Father. Father had no other choice. No other choice. Jin Yang laughed coldly, her eyes filled with mockery. It's not that you had no other choice. It's just that your status is more important than mine and Mother's. Qing Feiyang did not retort. What Jin Yang said was the truth. When a person was in a high position, he would never be willing to fall from it. Otherwise, the feeling of loss would be unbearable. Also, Jin Yang paused. In the future, I will no longer be Princess Jin Yang, nor will I be the daughter of the Qing family. I will follow Mother's surname, Lianyu. From now on, my name will be Lianyuashing. After saying this, Jin Yang flicked her sleeves and left. Her back view was very resolute, and her eyes were stern. Qing Feiyang's legs turned to jelly as he watched Jin Yang leave. He had lost too many family members this time, however, he had no other choice, right? Did he really have to become enemies with the Freedom Alliance? Who on this mainland could be a match for the Freedom Alliance? Outside Wind Cloud City, Yun Xiao and Yun Luofeng didn't stop. Before the guards could react, they rushed in and headed straight for the relay station. At this moment, within the relay station, Qing Feiyang had already packed his luggage and left with the rest of the people. Yun Luofeng searched the entire relay station and only found the heavily injured and unconscious palace-maid Little Chrysanthemum. In order to find out what had happened in Wind Cloud City, she had fed the palace maids the elixir. The palace maid slowly woke up. Her mind was still in a daze when she heard Yun Luofeng's evil voice. Do you know where the Golden Sun Princess of the Jinyang Kingdom is? Princess. Little Chrysanthemum was taken aback, and anxiety appeared on her face. The princess has been taken away by the Freedom Alliance. Even though she had been injured by Qing Feiyang before this, she still saw a woman appear in a daze and take Princess Jin Yang away. His Majesty said that woman was from the Freedom Alliance. Yun Xiao, Jin Yang warned me. No matter what, I have to save her. Yun Luofeng raised his eyes slightly. Furthermore, the people of the Freedom Alliance hurt my mother. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.